Hello,
Hello,
minjani?
minjani?
Ngikombela mi highlight agenda.
Eh,
Closing date ya legacy report tambiarin.
um, ka ku leswi va swi endlisaka swona kahle kahle ku adopta ku fanele ku va ku ri next year in the next term, the first term before.
Okay.
Yeah, that it looks like va yi lava swa sweswiwani mara yi nge yi fakiwi ka inani
Yeah,
aka documentary papers.
no, that thing must start afresh. I think I read it. Most of the things they are not capturing our work.
Okay.
So I suggest when is our last meeting?
It would be Monday. Any
Okay.
Monday hi laha hi nga apply ku hi ta deal na report ya this electoral reform panel.
Yeah, I think the deal na yona namuhla. Not issues around.
Mara da hi ta deal na yona next week hi report ya kona leyi nga ta yisa ka National Assembly.
Ah, with the Kersandako.
Yeah.
With the Kersandako.
So what happens to meeting on Monday? Go already mostly on that very same issue.
At that time we'll see how we can see it on the legacy report.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Come with these bills now that have been approved in Parliament by a cabinet, what must happen?
But this is the introduce you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to leave at 10, half past 10, in fact, the latest.
Okay.
Okay. There's an event in my constituency area.
Okay.
Medicinal office. So we're visiting them. They start at 10. So I requested Honorable Mudise to preside on the next items. But
okay.
on an apologies, you can indicate that I requested I have an apology to leave at half past 10 because I have a visit, a constituency work. No, not a visit to the traditional authority where my constituency is located.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it just
but before Mfama, then that item number 3, more make it clear we are not dealing with it on Monday.
No, we'll hear the deliberation of the members, but I'm just citing.
Oh, okay.
And then the legacy report, let's take it to Monday.
Okay.
Just inform Adams.
Okay, I will inform you.
And then meeting that parallel work, Leah. That approach, they say we must do joint. Yeah. Given that we don't have time, who can we deal it on Monday? So parliamentary legal service by a brief.
Oh, okay. No, what time on Monday?
In fact swi lava hi dilana hi hlangana na chairperson ku sungula.
Ya hikuva ni vuye ni ku na n'wanyana lava va dilaka na select committee aka standing committee on finance and select committee on appropriation.
Yeah.
And then adaman phone money answer adaman phone la. Okay. A ku ri Adam hi mhaka ya a ni n'wi tsalele message hi issue liya ya the legacy report, so a la ta clarify wa so we're na meeting Monday.
Or Adamurin.
No, a ni n'wi sendele message ku no hi ta deal na legacy report on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's to see.
All right, sure.
Okay.
I was saying we must meet with Shaida so that we deal with this thing about how we're going to work around the joint.
Oh,
program.
okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know that select committee on appropriation and standing committee on finance.
Yeah.
They have been doing it, but not like a bill referred to them as a joint committee, but they've been collaborating together to do joint work together.
Yeah.
Because the deadline to process the budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't even have to ask for a permission from the two houses. We can just collaborate and draft a joint program together.
Yeah. So we must let's have that meeting on between legal service and chairperson of the legal what maybe Sunday evening. He prepared on Monday.
Will they be available on Sunday?
Okay, it's fine. We can.
Yeah, because even the bills, they have not yet been introduced, so we can do it on Monday.
No, isn't Monday is a committee at 9.
Yeah, during the day after the meeting.
No, but we must brief the. I want us to brief the committee what we're thinking.
Okay. I will try Sunday evening then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just check Shaida here.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Good morning, members.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's Eddie.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah. We are about to start. I've not seen the minister in the meeting. Is the first one on the agenda in terms of agenda number 3. So if we can maybe give him some few minutes.
Morning, Mr. Matonzi.
Morning, Chair.
Is the DM in the meeting?
No, there's an apology for him.
The DG is in the meeting.
Yeah.
DG?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, Minister.
Morning, DG. Can you establish where's the minister?
All right, we'll do that. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Good morning, veteran. How are you? Can you switch on your video? We want to benefit seeing you.
I'm only using my cell phone, but okay, I'll try my best.
No, I hope you're back.
Thank you, sir. Hello.
Yes. No, thanks, veteran. It's long we've not seen you.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other a long time.
Yeah, and I can see you're stronger now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Mieta, how are you?
Well, I'm well, Chair. How are you?
No, we're trying, Commissioner.
Wonderful. Good morning to honorable members.
It may appear that if the minister is not in, we're likely to request the brief from the team.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Tate Mwepa.
Good morning, DG. Good morning.
Yes, Minister is joining. Apologies, Chairperson. He received a link that said he needed to join the meeting at 1. I'm not sure where that's from, but he's joining.
Okay. No, thanks, DG. Thanks very much.
Recording in progress.
Morning, Chair.
Morning, Mr. Matunzi.
Yes, I just saw the minister getting into the meeting. If we could start, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much and good morning. I also want to greet all members and also request to ground off my video. Thank you, members, and welcome, honorable members, Minister, Director General of Home Affairs, the BMA Commissioner, and Deputy Commissioners, the IEC Chair, and all Commissioners and the Executive of the IEC, the Parliamentary Legal Service. You're welcome, and all our staff, this important meeting to interact on the items that are on the agenda. Firstly, we need to congratulate the IEC for hosting a successful 25th anniversary of celebration of the Electoral Commission's Forum of SADC, and hope that your deliberations will help further strengthen this institution within SADC. We've also noted the cabinet decision or resolve to approve bills that must be tabled before Parliament and referred to the committee, citing the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill, which the committee members have been engaging the minister in terms of its agency and also the IEC, and we're fully aware that we're behind on the process to finalize the Electoral Amendment Bill or the consequential amendments. We'll note that the committee will then able to guide on the process that we're going to engage on. We have also interacted with the Parliamentary Legal Service on how best can we make sure that we fast track the process, and are still engaging with the select committee chair so that we're able to brief the committee on the process that we're going to engage on. Members, we're not going to deal with the legacy report. As you know that we scheduled a meeting for Monday. We'll defer the item number 7 on the legacy report because there's some issues that we have identified and we're able to deliberate on. We're now going to allow Mr. Matonsi to deal with item number 2 and the minister, and then we'll invite Commissioner Commissioner Mashiapata on the BMA preparations for the festive season, and members will deliberate, will consider the adoption of the previous minutes, and then our meeting will stand adjourned. Mr. Matonsi, can you run on the item number 2?
Yes, Chairperson, from my side, I've got Honorable Kanyile, who sent an apology, as well as the Deputy Minister. And also that you, Chairperson, you indicated that around 10 o'clock you will be leaving because you have got an engagement with traditional leaders around your area. And also from Legal Service, Telane, she has sent an apology that she won't be able to be in the meeting. But also from Parliament Legal Service, yes, Chair, I've got Daksha and Advocate Shaman van der Merwe, they are in the meeting to listen, Chair. That's all from my side.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Matonsi. Any other apologies? Minister? I think
yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I thought I had a written apology, but I don't hear it being read. I'm asking it to be released at least the latest by 11:15, because I've got a press conference here at the GCIS at 11:30. It's a very important press conference of announcing something that is time-bound. So I ask that you release me. The Commissioner of the Border Management Authority will be able to take item 5 in my absence without me being there. Thank you.
Okay, can you introduce also your team in attendance, Minister or Director General?
Yeah, can the DG do that? But just before the DG does it, Chair, I hereby wish to introduce to the committee the new head of legal services in the department. Is going to log in a short while. Advocate Pelelani Kumalo. We think it's a very important for me to do this, because you are aware that for 3 years we could not fill this position because the incumbent was going through DC, Labor Court and all that. And eventually he opted off the system. We're able to advertise the post. So 2 weeks ago, we start acquiring head of legal services. The advocate, I'm sure you'll know him later, is going to log in. He was still doing some work now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. DG?
No, good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister. I hope you're able to hear me, Chairperson. There's an apology, I think, from the Deputy Minister that's been recorded. And then from the department, it's Advocate Moitse, responsible for counter-corruption and security services, DDG, and then the CFO, Mr. Gordon Hollamby, and then Mr. Modiri Matthews, who's the acting DDG responsible for IMS. And then from the ministry, it's Modupi Maisela Kamdluli, the Chief of Staff, and then Madiete Makua, and then Mozi Njoko, and then from the department, Sia Koza, and then, of course, I think David Kabane was the acting spokesperson for the minister today. So that's the team from our side. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Mieta.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Minister. And good morning to the guests. I'm joined this morning by Commissioners Love and Judge Pillay. I'm also joined by Mr. Mahlangu George from our party funding unit. I see Maseko Shiburi is online as well. I can expect that the CEO may not be able to join us this morning, Chairperson. We should be well represented. The matter that is going to be discussed, we should be able to dispense with the team that's online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Mieta. Commissioner Mashiapata.
Good morning, Chair and committee members and Minister. From the Border Management Authority side is myself, accompanied by the Deputy Commissioner for Operations, General David Chilembe, as well as the Deputy Commissioner responsible for Corporate Services, Madam Jane Tupana, and we're also having the Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Fanil, who is responsible for law enforcement and operations. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Mashiapata. Parliamentary Legal Service.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to the members. From our side, I don't think we have anything to add on that. Myself and Ms. Casson is in attendance to understand on the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks very much, colleagues, for taking note of the apologies and also introducing your team. And congratulations, Advocate Kumalo, for your appointment, and hope that you strengthen and collectively work with the team. Minister, you're now invited to present before the committee on item number 3. Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. I sent my presentation to several people, Musi Jogo, the PC Secretary, and the DG. One of them, I'm sure, is ready to project it. I've just sent it a short while away. Can they help me to project it, please? I was not able to do it this side. Muzi, are you able to project?
Minister, I have not received it. I'm just checking on my emails now.
We send it even by WhatsApp.
Okay, yes, I have it on my WhatsApp. Let me just download it.
Are you winning, Muzi?
Yes, Minister. Just about to show it up. There it is.
You are not looking. No,
Yeah.
it must be on the screen.
Minister, next time we must, I think your team must do this process because I'm sure you are aware that the meeting started at 9. So we can't deal with the logistics now. I don't think that is proper. I think just note that part, Minister.
My apologies, sir. I was supposed to have done it when I realized there are corrections which I needed to do, which I just picked up when I was revising my document. The DG also has got it. If Moses is struggling, I also send it to the parliamentary secretary. One of them ought to be able to project it. I'm not sure why Moses is struggling.
Struggling, Minister, technically,
Why?
it's not opening from my WhatsApp, Minister.
Sorry, this is not the dialogue meeting. Can Moses or the minister send to Mr. Eddie? We'll give you 5 minutes.
Eddie, we have sent it. We have sent it long ago, about 10 minutes ago. Eddie, can you check your email?
No, Minister.
I just checked now. I don't have it. If Muzi can send it to me as well.
Wait, Eddie. We can't take responsibility on the lack of coordination from your office. So let's get 5 minutes off. We'll come back to deal with this matter because we could have received this document earlier on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I confirm if members can see it?
It's not on a presentation mode.
Muzi?
Yes, Eddie?
Yeah, it only showed the list of all your documents.
Okay.
Let me check. Did you try to? Okay, now it's showing. Just put it on the slide mode.
Is it on a slide mode?
It shows, but just put it on the slide mode right down there at the bottom. Yeah, there. All right, it's okay now.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thanks very much. Can you establish if this is a correct presentation first? Minister?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, thank you. Proceed, Minister.
Yeah, once more, Chairperson, let me apologize for the technical glitches. They were not really foreseen. Honorable members, the purpose of this presentation is to request National Assembly, as contemplated in Section 23(9)(b) of the Electoral Amendment Act, Act number 1 of 2023, which will refer to as the Electoral Amendment Act from now henceforth, to approve the names of 9 identified nominees to be appointed as members of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, which will refer it from now onwards as the panel. Next. Yeah, the legislative time frame for establishing the panel and functions of the panel, Chair. Section 23(1) of the Electoral Amendment Act requires the Minister of Home Affairs to, within 4 months after the commencement of the Act, to establish the panel. Section 23(2)(a) of the Electoral Amendment Act stipulates that the functions of the panel are to independently investigate, consult on, report on, and make recommendations in respect of potential reforms of the electoral system for the election of the National Assembly and the election of provincial legislatures in respect of elections to be held after the 2024 elections. Section 23(2)(b) of the Electoral Amendment Act obliges the panel to perform its functions referred to in paragraph A above in a manner that enables Parliament to exercise its constitutional powers to determine the electoral system for the elections of the National Assembly and provincial legislatures in respect of elections to be held after the 2024 elections. Next. Section 29, subsection 1 of the Electoral Amendment Act provides as follows. Subsection 9, it says, in order to establish and constitute the panel, the minister must A, call on the public and any interested parties to nominate fit and proper South African citizens who, Roman figure 1, have the necessary skills, expertise, experience, knowledge, or academic qualifications in the administration and running of elections or constitutional law or electoral systems. Roman figure 2, are not members of Parliament or any provincial legislature. And number 3, have not in the past 12 months been office bearers or employees of any political party. And then subsection B, in consultation with the Commission and after approval by the National Assembly, Minister must appoint 9 members of the panel from such nominated persons who satisfy the criteria specific to paragraph A and C. And subsection C, appoint one of the members of the panel as the chairperson of the panel. Next. Section 23, subsection 3 of the Electoral Amendment Act stipulates that the panel must, prior to 2024 elections, engage in research and consider the issues falling within its functions. And subsection B, after 2024 elections, undertake a public participation process regarding the issues falling within its functions, and subsection 3, from the date of its establishment, submit a report to the minister every 3 months on its progress. In terms of section 23(4) of the Electoral Amendment Act, the panel must, within 12 months of the date of the 2024 elections, submit a report to the minister on the possible options for electoral reform for the election of the National Assembly and the election of the provincial legislature, which must include, number A, reasons, potential advantages, and disadvantages. This, Chair, means the reasons that they are advising Parliament on a particular system, and then also give potential advantages of the system they are systems they are recommending, and also give disadvantages of each of those. Number B, it must also include legal and constitutional implications of such a choice. And lastly, number C, it must also reflect financial implications. This is because, Chair, any electoral system has got financial implication to individuals, and political parties, but also to the rest, to the country as a whole. Next. The Electoral Amendment Act was assented to and signed into law by the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa on the 13th of April, 2023. On the 19th of May, 2023, the Department of Home Affairs, after consultation with the Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, published a notice calling upon members of the public, as well as any interested parties, to nominate fit and proper South African citizens for membership of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel. We will call this the first notice. The first notice was published in Proclamation R695 in Government Gazette number 48635 on the 19th of May, 2023. But soon thereafter, Chair, the President then signed the proclamation to bring into force and operation the Electoral Amendment Act 2023. The proclamation was published in Proclamation number R696 in Government Gazette of that number there, 48839, on the 22nd of June, 2023. Next. The notice published on the 19th of May, 2023 was therefore issued prior to the commencement of the Electoral Amendment Act, as the President was required to issue a proclamation as to the date on which the Electoral Amendment Act comes into being. In other words, Chair, when we made we published the first notice on the 19th, we realized that the President was supposed to proclaim first, because it means before proclamation, the Act is not in operation. For this reason, we realized that we had to correct the anomaly by publishing the second notice, which was published in Proclamation 697, Government Gazette 49014, on the 21st of July, 2023. The department, together with the IEC, proceeded to draft the requisite correction notice, which I'll call the second notice. The rationale for correction notice was inter alia to extend the period up to the 11th of August 2023. That means the period of these nominations. Thank you. Move next. As at 11 August, the department, which has the closing date of this nomination after the second notice, the department received 25 nominations only, ranging from medical doctors, academics, former and current IEC personalities. After receiving the nominations, the department began the process of analyzing the nomination in accordance with the criteria set out in 29(3)(a) of the Electoral Amendment Act and the second notice. The notice, Chair, called upon the public to submit nominations, and the requirements were: number one, the necessary skills, expertise, experience, knowledge or academic qualification in the administration and running of elections or constitutional law or electoral systems. B, not to be a member of parliament or any provincial legislature. And 3, not in the past 12 months to have been an official bearer or employee of any political party, an office bearer rather, not official, an office bearer of any or employee of any political party. All motivated nominations indicating the prescribed requirement and which must be accompanied by an acceptance nomination duly signed by the nominated candidate. Chairperson, I need to repeat this because later on I'm going to show some of the issues that candidates or prospective candidates did not do. That means when the nomination is coming in with motivations indicating the prescribed requirement, it must be accompanied by an acceptance of nomination. And that acceptance must be signed by the nominated candidate, which means you can't just nominate a person and put their name here, and then we put them in the file without them showing that they are actually accepting the nomination. Next. The department received then 25 nominations, as we said. Oh, no. Yeah, as we said, as I said, which were medical doctors, academic and present and former IEC personalities. Of the 25 nominees received, 4 are females and 22 are males. 2 of the nominees did not hand in proof of acceptance of nomination. That's exactly what I've just mentioned a short while ago. 2 of the nominees did not hand in proof of acceptance of nomination as per the criteria set out in the notice. In fact, one of these 2 nominations actually nominated himself and did not send the CV. He just sent a letter which starts by saying, I've been nominated for this panel and I'm prepared to take the part. But we don't know who nominated him. So we regard it as a personal nomination without any acceptance form being written. And we'll give the details later on about who did what. Next. So this left us with only 23 nominees, chairperson, out of the original 25. On the 27th of November 2023, I, as the minister, consulted with the IEC as the Act instructs us to in Section 29(3)(b) of the Electoral Amendment Act. During the consultation, the IEC resolved that its commissioners and staff should not be part of the panel and hence must be removed from the list. Actually, chairperson, with the commissioners, it just couldn't happen because in terms of this act, the section I've just mentioned, 29(3)(b), I must consult with the IEC about these names. And so it can be that after consulting, because basically I'm consulting with the commissioners, it can then be that one of the commissioners or any number of commissioners then become part of the panel because it will mean they were consulting about their own nominations. So that one is out. But then the IEC added that they do not want any of their staff members precisely because they are faced with very difficult and new type of elections where they need all their attentions on the election process. So after this resolution of the IEC, then 3 more individuals, which will provide details later, 3 more individuals were removed from the list. Then that leaves us with 20 nominees, 3 of which is not 2, 3 of which are then women. It's written 2, they're supposed to be 3. And we are putting the nominees in terms of their numbers there. Next. During the consultation, Chair, the following criteria was adopted by myself as the minister and the IEC to be used in the shortlisting of the nominees with a view of recommending 9 or so nominees for approval by the National Assembly. Remember, the Act says the panel must consist of 9. So we might actually recommend a little bit of that, but the shortlisting cannot be less than 9. So we should have written less than 9 there with a view of recommending no less than 9 nominees, not just 9, no less than 9. That is the precise term to use. Now, these are the criteria which we agreed with the IEC about shortlisting. 1, demographic profile, that the composition of the profile need to reflect a balance in various democratic criteria. 2, constitutional legal framework. There must be demonstrated understanding of the constitutional and national legislative imperatives relevant to electoral systems, not just one system, but electoral systems. 3, understanding of economic and fiscal implications of the varied electoral systems, because you saw in the Act, they said when the panel reports, they must consider financial implications of a model. So it means inside the committee, there must be enough capacity to understand economic and fiscal implications of the various electoral systems that they are going to propose. Number 4, demonstrated understanding of political systems in functioning democracies in different parts of the world. That means the candidate must show that there are quite a number of democracies in the world. Some of them are not functioning. We are choosing specifically functioning ones in different parts of the world. There must be a demonstrated understanding and appreciation of those. Number 5, persons who do not hold elected office in any political party. This is very obvious. It's also in the Act. Number 6, persons who are not members of parliament, provincial legislatures, and municipal councils. I must be fair and loyal to you, honorable members, by indicating that in the criteria and in the Act, we said persons who are not members of parliament and provincial legislators. We realized then that they are meaning politicians, and we assumed it must also mean municipal councils because they are also politicians. But I want to indicate to you that we have added it because we thought that's what it implies, but it's in your hands, honorable members, to be able to interpret it and say, if in the criteria or in the Act, it doesn't say anything about municipal councils. But we thought it will defeat the purpose because municipal councils are politicians as much as we are. Many of them in municipal councils are actually leaders of political parties. Number 7, involvement in community activism and upliftment. In other words, we said, apart from knowing all these technicalities about elections and constitution, this is also an issue for the community. When the panel go to consult the community, you will need people who have got some experience in community activism, who have uplifted communities, who will know how to interact with communities. Number 8, Chair, which I believe is extremely important, demonstrated research ability. And I'm saying so not to undermine the others. I'm saying so specifically because the main function of this panel is to research locally, regionally, continentally, and around the whole world, and compare systems and find from that type of research, what do you think will be good for South Africa? So the demonstrated research ability and capacity is extremely important. 9, people who demonstrated a willingness to explore options and solutions rather than hold fixed views in relation to democratic systems and electoral systems. Chairperson, there are people who, during this process of the amendment, as you know, have on many occasions publicly and in various symposia stood on fixed positions and said, this is the best, that one I reject. Now, we believe such people won't be able to come with an open mind. They won't be able to research, because if you come with a fixed mind, what is that which you are researching? Because your mind is made that I want this and nothing else. So we want people who are willing to explore other options and be convinced about other best options, rather than having a fixed view and say, I stand by this one. We believe number 9 need to be looked at very carefully by honorable members. Number 10, which we regard not as a criteria, but an added advantage, Chairperson, I must emphasize that electoral experience that may include demonstrated applied knowledge of electoral systems, meaning not necessarily that you ran elections, but you can demonstrate or show applied knowledge of electoral systems. And then also experience in electoral administrations, those people who have in their life have such experience, and knowledge of electoral legislative frameworks. This number 10 is just an added advantage. It doesn't mean that if you have got these features or these attributes, then it trumps all the others above, but it will become an added advantage for you. Next. Nominations received. Next. Chair, I'm now going to the 25 nominations that were received. Dr. Courage McDuff Khoza, Dr. Malumi Tebatso Komo, Mr. Ibrahim Fakir, Judge Johan Krieger, Mr. Lawson Naido, Mr. Michael Lewis, Ms. Letlonolo Mpolitele, Mr. Sindile Sitfagu, Mr. Michael Atkins, Mr. Posa Jan Mashangwani, Prof. Stephen Friedman, Mr. Thabo Manyoni, Ms. Zama Awuzi, Professor Seth Cooper, Advocate Richard Kalipe Sizani, Advocate Laval Goban, Mr. Norman Duplessis, Paul Malcolm Graham, Ms. Terry Ismail Zilani, Advocate Faith Pensi Tikeledi Takula, Mr. Philip Machanik, I'm not sure whether it's mechanic or mechanic, somebody who know how to pronounce that will correct me. I'm sorry if I've butchered the name, Mr. Philip. Mr. Tembingosi Josopu and Mr. Paduri Simon Mamabulo, Mr. Michael Andre Hendricks, and Miss Janet Love. Next. And Chair, can we, yeah, can you go on? Can you go on? I'll come to that later. Can you go on? Yes. Maybe go back to the last slide for me to explain something first. Last slide. Yes. Chairperson, the last 3 names, as I said earlier, are the names which the IEC resolved not to include. I'm just including them because they were nominated. But after the consultation with the IEC, these names had to be removed. That's why I told you we got left with 20 names, because the other names which were removed was a candidate who nominated himself and a candidate who did not present any acceptance form. So these last names, because one, number 25 is a commissioner. At the time of nomination, the parliament has not yet appointed number 5 as a commissioner. 25 as a commissioner, but now is appointed. At the time of these meetings and shortlisting is appointed. The other 2, one is the CEO, the engine of the coming elections nationally. The second one is the CEO, the engine of the coming election in the Western Cape. We have hence removed them according to the resolution from the IEC. Next. Yes. In consultation with the IEC, as I said, we recommend the following nominees for approval by the National Assembly, in line with Section 29(3)(b) of the Electoral Amendment Act, to be appointed as members of the panel. Members, I am putting these names to you. The decision is yours. We just use the criteria above to try and do the shortlisting, but the final decision is yours. I want to emphasize that is yours, but this is what myself as the minister empowered by the Act and the IEC in consultation as empowered by the Act thought. The first one is Ibrahim Fakir. The second is Judge Johan Strichler. The last is Mr. Lesion Naido. The third, Mr. Lesion Naido. The fourth, Ms. Letoonolo Mpolitsele. Number 5, Prof. Stephen Friedman. Number 6, Mr. Thabo Manyoni. Number 7, Professor Seth Cooper. Number 8, Advocate Richard Sizani. Number 9, Advocate Laban Kobal. Number 10, Advocate Pensitla Gula. Next, and number 11, Mr. Norman Duplessis, and number 12, Ms. Zama Awuzi. These are the list of shortlisted candidates, Chairperson. It does not mean, I'm emphasizing, that the other nominees that are still on the list do not qualify. The matter is in your hands. It is within your rights to debate and tell us what to do. Next. So, Chair, we recommend that the National Assembly approves the 9 nominees to be appointed as members of the panel.
Thanks very much, Minister. Are you done, Minister?
Oh, sorry, I muted myself by mistake, Chair. My apologies. Can you move on? After the recommendations, there are tables. These tables, Chair, they show the same names, but I just thought it's important for members of the committee to be held with the last 2, but 1 columns. That means the column on age and gender. It will be important when members start debating. Mr. Courage McDuff Khosa, who is a medical practitioner, is 34 years old and is male. Dr. Malumi Tebatso Komo, PhD in system science and metallurgical engineering. He is 72 years old, male. Ibrahim Fakir, as you know, Director of Programs, Aul Socio-Economic Research Institute, and a political commentator. He's a 53-year-old male. Next. Judge Strichler. I don't know why it is cut there. Yeah? It has cut it there, but that row above is Judge Strichler, as you know, former Justice of the Constitutional Court. He is the man who ran the elections for us in 1994, before the advent of the IEC. I think everybody knows him. Mr. Lawson Naido is currently Executive Secretary of CASAC. Is a 60-year-old male. Next. Mr. Michael Lewis is a 65-year-old male, CEO of the Lewis Group. Letoonolo Mpolitsele is a 29-year-old female who is working for my vote count, but they've got qualifications there in BA Honors International Studies, MA in Politics, etc. Mr. Sindile Faku is a 57-year-old male who is in the private sector. Next. Mr. Michael Atkins, unfortunately, no CV submitted. Qualifications were not provided. We've been struggling to get the age, but he's male. We did not find them on the CV. We struggled. We tried. The nomination was from Ota, Chairperson. Mr. Posa Jan Mashangwani is a 66-year-old male with the qualification there, mostly in the communication area and in ICASA. Professor Stephen Friedman is a 70-year-old male who holds a D.Lit, a Doctor of Literature and BA Honors in Political Science. As you know, he's a well-known political commentator and a research professor at the University of Johannesburg. He's also a newspaper columnist, an intellectual activist, former trade unionist, and former journalist. Next, Mr. Thabo Manyoni is a 63-year-old male with those qualifications there, BA, Diploma in Business Management, and certificate in leadership. As you know, he is presently serving as the deputy chair of the, is serving as the former executive mayor of the Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality. There, they wrote that deputy chair of the African National Congress in the Free State. That is in the past, unfortunately. It does not apply now, Chairperson. And Ms. Zama Awuzi she didn't provide the age, but we didn't find it on the CV, but it's a female, over 12 years extensive experience in various industries, including higher education institutions, insurance companies, retail, and banks. Next. Professor Seth Cooper, PhD in clinical or community psychology. We could not find the age, but the CV was submitted. He's the president of the Pan-African Psychology Union, former president of the International Union of Psychology, Psychological Science and Psychological Society of South Africa, Electoral Democracy Training and Legal Services. Advocate Richard Sizani, 64-year-old male, an academic. He's a former chairperson of the Public Service Commission of South Africa. Advocate Lavan Kobal, 52-year-old male, is an admitted advocate of the High Court of South Africa, founder and director of Merchant Africa. He holds a BCom degree, LLB, LLM, and MPA, and is a fellow of Harvard University because he obtained all those from Harvard. Next. Mr. Nomel Duplessis, as you can see, we also were trying to get the age, but he has submitted CV. He's a male who served in the previous panel. As you know, he served he was a deputy chairperson of the Electoral Commission. He served, not a deputy CEO. He also served as a member of the Electoral Panel chaired by Dr. Van Zyl Slabbert, and then also the one which brought this the amendment, the Electoral Amendment Act, which was chaired by former Minister Vali Musa. He was also part of that. Paul Malcolm Graham is a 69-year-old male, possesses over 20 years experience in politics, government, and civil society, and there are qualifications there on English and biblical studies and education. Mr. Terry Ismail Zilane, we could also not get the age, even though he submitted the CV. He's an executive chairperson of IMSA, Electoral Management Service in Africa. You are aware that he was also a commissioner at some stage in the Electoral Commission. Next. Advocate Pensitla Gula, you are aware that she did serve as a chairperson of the Electoral Commission. She also served as a CEO of the Electoral Commission, and the qualifications there is BProc, LLB, LLM, an honorary doctorate in legal studies from Valley University of Technology, and she also served in two previous commissions, the one led by Van Zyl Slabbert and the one led by Vali Musa. There we are, Chairperson. Can you move on? Yes. Mr. Philip Mechanic, that's the one which we said is self-nominated, but I'm putting everybody here. The age is not provided, but it's male. Mr. Tembingosi Josopu, a 41-year-old male with those qualifications there, BA Honors in Development Studies, higher certificate in Public Management, no election experience provided, but is a member of the board of directors, Department of Employment and Labor. Next is representing the community in Netlag, actually. Mr. Paturi Simon Mamabolo is the 52-year-old male with a BA Master of Management in Board Leadership, is the present CEO of the Electoral Commission, and as you know, eventually removed from the list. Mr. Michael Andre Hendricks is age not provided, but is male with the qualifications there, BA Law, LLB, LLM, Human Rights and Constitutional Practice, but he is presently the head of the electoral, the CEO in the Western Cape. So the name has been removed. Ms. Janet Love is the commissioner and appointed as the deputy chairperson of the Electoral Commission, and female, and as you know, she's presently serving as a commissioner, so we have removed the name. There you are, chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Chair, before members come in, there is just something I want to say. As you saw from the presentation, chairperson, we missed the time that has been stipulated in the Act. And I need to explain, chairperson, because it passed 6 weeks away. It's only now that we are able to make this presentation. Chairperson, we were faced with a very difficult problem. I, as the minister specifically, have to run a process of pushing 3 acts of parliament, one of which is extremely important for this election. The electoral amendment, where we had to amend five previous legislation as part of the consequential amendments. It took a toll in terms of time and capacity, chairperson. The second one was the Marriage Act, which you all know. You have been asking me about it. It has got a constitutional court deadline of sometimes in June next year. And there have been lots and lots of controversies and consultation about the acts. We had to push it through various committees of parliament, and it was a very, very difficult job where we have to change and consult nearly every day. The last one is the OSBP bill, the Border Management Authority. As you already know, we had already gone forward to announce requests for proposals for the redevelopment of the 6 ports of entry. And in order for that to work legally, because that request for proposal was about buildings and designs. But in order to work, because you must work across borders, we need to put a bill that allows officials on both sides of the border to do extraterritorial work and apply extraterritorial laws. So fortunately, chairperson, that which took most of the time, chairperson, was eventually, the battle was eventually won on Wednesday, when the cabinet eventually approved. The bills I'm mentioning, which took most of the time, are now on their way to the speaker. They will soon land on the lap of the members of the portfolio committee. I just thought I need to explain that, Chair, because it was very, very tough. And so we were not able to give a lot of attention to this, because we thought at least we'll still cover the time, because it's something that must happen to prepare for 2029 elections, not 2024. Otherwise, I thank you, Chairperson.
Now, thanks, Minister, for the presentations on the names that the committee need to consider. The first one, Minister, before I invite members to deal with, is the issue you have raised now. And I'm sure that we do conduct oversight over the department. And I think this work is one of the areas that we need to, you did raise it in our meeting. If you recall, when the committee was requesting these panels, because the time frame has already gone. So it is important to adhere to the time frame as legislated. When we do note the the reasoning behind it. But it becomes unfortunate, Minister, when different explanations are given to members on one matter. So I was saying that we must just take note of that time frame in terms of how we must work on these issues in relation to all the issues that you have raised. It's quite important because it defeats the purpose of work that must be undertaken and the responsibilities that come with that task. So we think that you must note it, that the committee is not comfortable in the manner the process of responding to the deadline that was assigned is being taken by the executive. The second point, I think you may need to assist us, Minister. And I'm fully aware that the IEC is in attendance. I don't want to invite them on the subject. You may need to assist us, Minister, to articulate the reasoning of the IEC's resolve to ground off their team. I'm raising it because of the work that's going to be undertaken, particularly on technical areas. And I know that the 2024 provincial and national elections are going to be tough and complex and going to a lot of work that need to be undertaken. But I think it was going to be important, Minister, the IEC look carefully on how we need to complement this work. And I note the experienced persons that have been drawn up from these elections. I know that the former Mayor Tlakula did form part of one of the panel that deals with the election. So the comparison of involvement of members of the IEC or staff or the commission and the decision in your consultation that has been done, perhaps you may need to elaborate more to the committee before we consider them. The third point, Minister, I want to deal with one criteria you are raising, the democratic profile, in terms of the composition of the names that it does not appear that it meets that criteria in terms of, and you've indicated that there are more women that have been grounded off, young people or people living with disability or other sectors that can contribute objectively to this discourse. Because you need, as you say, Minister, or as you have articulated, that you need an objective team that will be able to assist us to get out of and implement what citizens of the Republic will be able to be. The other point is on the, which I think the committee will also assist to move out of this pot. Members who are currently in court on the same subject matter. And I want to get a sense from yourselves in the consultation with the IEC that if that you could have identified as an area of discomfort, you could not, both the IEC team and the minister, considered to put those in the team. And I think it's one area that we need to deal with. The last point, Minister, which I think it may be odd also on yourself, you have indicated that other members who their CVs can be found or you cannot identify them. And I'm sure you have cited Mr. Michael Akin and others. I don't think that it would be credible that, and I'm sure on their side, she or he may have said, look, I've submitted the CV, I've submitted all the documents. And you could not have demonstrated that you have reached out to this member who have applied, and the committee, if they ought to deal with the accept the recommendation. These are some of the things that we must be careful as we deal with that. I wanted to get your clarity on that. Those that could not have able to submit or do any within that requirement to complement the document for purpose of your consultation with the IEC and also for reporting to the committee, what demonstration can you assure the committee that this will be a credible process? In attendance, I will invite Honorable Khwase, Honorable Molekwa, Honorable Van der Merwe, Honorable Pillay, Honorable Belekuta, Honorable Ross, Honorable Mohale, Honorable Bongo, Advocate Bongo, and Honorable Modise. In that order, Honorable Khwase. Honorable Khwase.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to all the colleagues on the platform. Chair, firstly, I saw the list of recommended names given to us by the Minister. I saw a list of 11, but underneath that list, there's a recommendation that only 9 names should be adopted. There's a lobby for 9 names to be adopted, yet the list has stated 11 names. Secondly, Chair, I would like to check if there can be legal repercussions if we go beyond the stipulated time frame or time according to the Act. I'm raising this issue, Chair, wanting to express my concern regarding the current process. Looking at it, Chair, there's a lack of representation of women. But I also want to lobby the committee to maybe go for reopening this process, Chair, to allow women to form part of the process, Chair. The lack of representation in the process, of representation of female nominees in the process, in my view, it's not doing justice if we want to ensure equal opportunities and to foster gender diversity. But in opening up the process, we must also acknowledge the efforts made by the 24 individuals who have already submitted their applications and met the necessary criteria. It would be fair that they are automatically included or considered in the reopening process, Chair. That would be my submission for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Khwase. Honorable Molekwa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I appreciate the presentation by the ministers and all issues presented in the presentation. Chairperson, I don't have much to say, but just to note the presentation has been presented and the recommendation of the nominees to be presented to Parliament for decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Molekwa. Honorable Van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to you, Chairperson. Good morning to our Minister, our DG, the IEC and all colleagues. Firstly, Chair, I want to agree with you with regards to the comments that you made in terms of the timelines. The fact of the matter is we hear the Minister's explanation and we do know that he's got a lot on his plate. But ultimately, when time frames or timelines are set, we need to adhere to those. And, you know, there should have been clear communication from the start, I think, as to why we were not meeting the deadlines. So I just wanted to agree with you in that regard. And then, Chairperson, I want to say I'm a bit disappointed that we only got 20 eligible names, considering that the topic of electoral reform has been such a hotly debated topic. And that we get a lot of people, well, you know, even yesterday I was looking again at some of the news stations that are talking about the issue of electoral reform, the fact that the Constitutional Court has not come back with its judgment. So people are interested in electoral reform, and then to only get 20 eligible names. And I'm of the belief, Chairperson, that considering that this report will not serve before the National Assembly, we rise next Wednesday. This report will not serve before the National Assembly this year. So it means we will have to deal with this report, finalize the names, and then adopt the report in February. This panel will start its work after the elections. So if the elections is in May, it means we will have to have the panel in place by May. And then looking at the candidates, I think from those I recognize 5 names, and I'm comfortable that 5 of those will be able to do the work that is required. But it will be a very complex task. So we need people with the requisite skills. And I don't think, looking at the names and the requirements that the minister listed, that we've checked all those boxes. Then also to consider the issue of female representation, which has been mentioned. So I would really like to appeal that we as a committee then say, Chairperson, that we reopen this process as a matter of urgency, that we ask, that we put a little bit of effort maybe into sourcing or making sure that people are aware of this advertisement. I don't think I mentioned it to anybody, so maybe it could be that we didn't publish it wide enough. So let's open the process and let's see if we get additional names that come forward, and then we do a re-shortlisting, maybe in January. After we can close the applications in January, we do a re-shortlisting in February, and we get the National Assembly then to approve this report by February or March next year. I just think 20 names, it's not a lot considering the complex tasks that they will have to undertake in terms of this process. We will have to make sure that we've got the very best people who've got the requisite skills, and I think therefore there is a case for us to reopen the process. Mr. Michael Atkins, who is mentioned with regards to his CV that wasn't submitted, I think all of us are familiar with Mr. Michael Atkins. This committee knows him. He's somebody that's passionate about electoral reform. So it would be worth getting his CV, Chairperson, as well. So those are my inputs for now. I think we need to reopen the process. Thanks, Chair.
Chairperson.
Hello, Chair.
It looks
Yes.
like the chairperson has been kicked out.
No, I'm in the meeting. I wanted to check if Honorable Zell has finished.
Yes, he's done, Chair.
It finished long ago. Yes.
Thanks very much, Honorable Pile.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Let me greet everyone on the platform and just go straight to the presentation. Chair, firstly, thank you to the Minister for the presentation and all of the deliberations. Chair, I think I concur the sentiments of you and other honorable members that we have been delayed much with time. But I have a few concerns, and my concern is that we really have not been able to look at the details of the CVs of all of the nominees. And there's just a brief summary. And just browsing through the summary that we've received now, I'm concerned that we don't have the relevant skills and experience specific to what is required. This is a very important process, Chair. And I think it's important that we have people with the necessary skills and experience that are presented on the panel. I want to support Honorable Lekhwase and Honorable van der Merwe in that gender is a challenge, and that we must be able to allow for other women to be able to be nominated or represented. Mine is on the youth representation and the demographics of our country. And I think it's important that that has to be considered. And so, Chair, I want to support the recommendations by honorable members that we do as a committee allow for the process to be reopened. It also gives an opportunity for those people who may not have submitted acceptances. That seems to be the only outstanding matter. And I think that it will also allow for other people. We just need to be a little bit more strong on our advertising and communication, so that we are able to get other nominees to actually submit nominations. So, Chair, I want to support that we reopen the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pile. Honorable Quarter.
Chairperson, thank you very much. May I express my greetings to the members on the platform and so on. Chairperson, I will probably start on a subject which also impacts on myself. I find it extremely worrisome that on the gender question, South African society is reluctant to move as we should have. The majority of the members of our society is women. We have hammered on this point times without number. But there is an extreme reluctance to move the women sections of our society into areas in which they can make contribution and help to transform our society such that the gender equality becomes not a subject of discussion, but a reality. Why are we reluctant to promote women, young and old, into areas in which they can begin to affect and change this men's club, if I may so say? Because it appears to be a preserve of men. Even when you look at these recommendations that are made, men, even old men, and some of them are even shy to disclose their ages. I'm wondering whether it's because they are worried that they might be eliminated on the basis that this is becoming also not just for men, but it's becoming a pension club for men. I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm actually also being accused of being one of the elders who should really have been sitting at home playing with the grandchildren. Now, I must support the idea that we must find a way to reopen this, but not only that, but to find as many of the women as is possible that are qualified sufficiently to occupy some of the positions which appear to be preserved for men. This is completely unacceptable. And I don't know, at the moment it is, we are busy with this GBV thing and so on. If you look at what is happening even in surrounding countries around our country, instead of a movement forward, it's going backwards. Countries like Lesotho, for instance, every information you are getting from there suggests that we are moving in the same direction as with those countries. And some of them are leading us, and we seem to be following in that direction. No. The time has come that we must act and provide leadership that can assist to transform our society. And unless we place women in the leadership, who is going to lead the process of correcting what has been wrong for so long? And frankly, let's tell some of the men to go home and rest, men. They've been there long enough. Let them go home and rest. And let's put the women in those positions. In the homes, we must ensure that the education of the girl child becomes a priority, so that society can begin to move in such an even way that we reflect ourselves as being respectful of the people that we are talking about so much. And I am persuaded by the arguments that have been put by a number of the speakers that have gone just before me, that we should try and reopen this when we come back. We can go back and rest, but come back and reopen this so that we can begin to really lay the foundations for change. I think that is the input I'd like to make this morning, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, veteran. Thank you very much. Honorable Ross.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chairperson, to start with, we received this presentation 41 minutes after the start of the meeting. And I want to know why, Chair, because this is undermining our work. Everything that is in here, the ability to plan and prepare for meetings, is undermined when the first time you see the presentation is as it's being presented, especially one with so much information in it. And so it's really undermined our work. I want to understand why we did not receive this presentation as per our parliamentary rules before this meeting. Then I think the excuse that is given by the minister for this being late, it's a crisis of the minister's own making. So all these bills, they've been on the table for a long, long time. We're talking about years in this parliament. And this matter never seems to get resolved. So we mustn't come here and say, because there's other bills that are there, this is why it was late. It's not why it was late. It really needs to be addressed, Chairperson. This matter of bills dragging on, projects dragging on because there's no capacity, etc. It has to be resolved because, again, electoral reform, for example, has been called for many, many years by government, by parliamentary forums over the years. And the inability to let's say, have the persons with the necessary capacity inside the Department of Home Affairs. It's not a new thing. This electoral reform has been called for the last 20 years, long before the wage bill ballooned to what it is now. And so it needs to be resolved, Chairperson. Now, I just want to talk about the criteria. I'm really surprised to see some of these extra criteria that are brought in. I don't know where they come from, because Section 29(9)(a)(1) of the Act, it talks about having the necessary skills, expertise, experience, knowledge, or academic qualifications in the running of elections or constitutional law or electoral systems. And so we see other things here, like a willingness to explore options, and even demographics. Where do these things come from? So we make law, we put qualifications into place, and then people are discounted. So, for example, the IEC made a unilateral decision to exclude suitably qualified persons who had applied, including women. So I don't know if persons withdrew, but I think, if the process is going to be reopened, we need to stick to the criteria that is in the legislation. Otherwise, if we create legislation where we have deadlines that are ignored, we have criteria that are ignored and replaced with other criteria, then what are we doing here? Then the executive can just do whatever they want. Chairperson, I'd like to support the idea of reopening, but there are two key things. And I think number one is that we must stick to the deadlines, because the challenge that we have here is that we have a deadline at the end of this process as well. And that is that the report must be submitted 12 months after the national election. So every month that we are wasting here is another month less. And the big concern is that there's a lot of work required to go and investigate, to put something together, but then there needs to be extensive public participation as well. And this is going to be very difficult to do sort of around an election, etc. So Chairperson, I would support the proposal that has been made, but we have to stick to the deadlines, and we have to be able to submit the report 12 months after the elections. I think the thing about demographics, and it's not a requirement here, but it is a concern, because we have to ask why 30 years after democracy, we don't have women that have developed in this space. This should also be our concern, because you can put a plaster on something, but we need to address the real issue of what's going on, what is underlying here, that we have so few women that applied. We talk about equality and fairness, that it was open to everybody, but clearly there are so few candidates that are available to apply. And it's something that we as a committee need to look at in the longer term, Chairperson. Why are women not being developed in this space under this dispensation? And then my other question is, I don't see that disabilities were looked at. So we look at demographics, and it appears that it's, we've spoken about gender, etc. But was disabilities looked at? Because I see to my mind, it seems to be something that might not necessarily be taken very seriously. If you look at the IEC website, for example, it's extremely low on accessibility. And if you look at the unemployment, etc., in that space, I think if you're going to look at this kind of thing, I don't understand why that wasn't considered either. But I think as part of this reopening process, we need more transparency, Chairperson, because we get a list of people here. We talk about a CV, which wasn't even a requirement in the Gazette. There was no requirement that said you must submit your CV. It just said persons with suitable qualifications can apply on the relevant form. So I don't see it there. Perhaps it was there. I think it needs to be clearer in the Gazette that comes out that a CV is required. And then when we are required to make these decisions, we need to have the scoring criteria. So we presented with 10 bits of criteria and a lot of PowerPoints on that. I haven't seen where the scoring matrix is and how the candidates were scored and why we came out with the 12 recommended names for 9 positions. And then a final question, Chairperson, and perhaps it's for our parliamentary legal services. But we have a scenario now where we've gone way beyond our deadline of establishing this, this grouping. My question is, what will happen or what will be the consequences if the minister just decides to go beyond the 12-month deadline at the end of this and just not submit the report and claim that there were issues and we were processing legislation and we were doing other things and it was a very busy time and there's economic headwinds? What are the consequences if this report is not submitted 12 months after the election? What are the legal consequences? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ross. Honorable Mokhale.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I agree with the sentiment that has been echoed by colleagues that we need to reopen the process once again because of the current, in terms of representation, the current names that we have, they are not really as representative as we need them to be. I mean, if there are no young people in the panel, if there are no women involved in the panel, then that should be a cause for concern. And we can't proceed with a panel which is supposed to review the electoral system and get the views of the broader society when itself is not representative of that society. So I think we really need to relook and open up for people to submit again, and we take it from there. So I support that that we need to restart this whole process again. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mokhale. Honorable Advocate Bongo.
Thank you, Chairperson. And thank you very much for the presentation by the Minister. I think it was a very good presentation. It does give the highlight of the work that has been put. And I would like to greet the Minister, greet the 2 commissioners and the DG and everyone. I think that generally I agree with colleagues that let's reopen the process and extend it with a reasonable period of time because of the reason that is substantiated by a lot of colleagues. I think the other main reason is what Honorable Lizelle is saying, that the report must be presented to the House, and the House is not sitting anytime. What we're wrapping up for the year, so it will be next year. I think it allows the Minister time to re-advertise. I share the same sentiments that we need to bring in gender. We need to bring in the youth, and we need to bring in the experience, but also demographics. Although it's not a requirement, but demographics are very important because this aspect deals with elections. So elections happen everywhere in the country. So we've got to be sensitive to the issue of demographics. But I really appreciate, and it's a very important thing, Minister, the consultation with the IEC, I think has given very, very, very important way forward, particularly about how do you zero in or narrow the issue of shortlisting, because that is a very important aspect, very, very important aspect for us to give effect to Section 23, subsection 2A and B. I think the criteria we have set with the IEC gives effect to Section 23A and B because it encapsulates the issues that you need to look at when you're dealing with the shortlisting. Because what it says there mainly is the issue of research ability. And at number 9, it speaks about a person who can explore and who's not fixed to certain views. I have seen in this list that we have presented, Minister, there are people who have taken you to court around this issue of the electoral reforms. There's people who have fixated views, and when you watch them on TV, you can see that they are not prepared to move from those views. So they can't be considered. I think that number 9 must be used strongly against those people who they're always on TV. They say the exercise that the Parliament has done was a multiplication of our own efforts by 0. So such a person can't research further. Such a person can't explore, is just fixated on what he thinks is right. So we've got to go deeper into that. So we generally then agree. I also agree with the Honorable Likota. People like Krikhla, they must just go home. They must just give chance to women and young people who must give a proper innovation to the work that the country needs to deal with. But one important matter which raised by the chair, because this matter was still new in this matter, I would just request that the IEC indulge us, because if IEC was to say commissioners are the ones who are not supposed to be part of the panel, I think it will make sense. But people like the CEO, because this process needs to be guided by people who have been doing research before. People like the CEO and other staff-related people, they may be part of this thing so that they can be a force multiplier in ensuring that they guide this process, because it's a fairly new process. So I don't think we must be fixated, even ourselves, in saying all IEC people must be out. I think we need to look into that, because we may need to this panel may need to tap a lot from a lot of work that some of the people have in the IEC structures. Yeah, other than that, I'm quite comfortable that we're all agreeing that let's reopen, let's re-advertise, and let's also make sure that the advertisement go to all and sundry. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Advocate Bongan Bongo. Honorable Modise Mja.
Thank you very much, Chair, and let me note and appreciate the report from the Minister. Chair, I am strongly persuaded by the views shared by the members, and I share the sentiments and want to agree that with the names that have been provided, probably we should then relook into an advert and open it up more so that more candidates can have an opportunity to be nominated to apply. There nothing much from my side. As I've said, that members would have extensively made views which I share and support. Just want to emphasize that it will be important that we really adhere and stick to the timeframes of processes, so that when we are faced with such challenges, we still have adequate or sufficient time to can deal with the reopening processes or re-advertising. And now it may seem as if we will be working against time. And also, Chair, to say that what would have happened when members we do not receive presentations on time, so that we can properly prepare for meetings and be able to study and read the reports, should not repeat itself. So in future, we need to get presentations on time, and so that members can be able to go through documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mdisi. Thanks, members, for carrying the guidance on how we must proceed. Minister, can you come in? Or let me start with Commissioner Miedza. Any comment, Commissioner?
Chairperson, I note that the issues related to members of the commission and the staff of the commission have been raised in this meeting. We have put something in writing to the minister. We do not have an objection that being made available to members of the committee, and they'll appreciate the sentiment expressed in our written submissions. The issue concerning the reopening is noted. The commission had, in fact, in consultation with the minister, and I think it's a matter that we shared a common view with the minister. We were amazed at the list, that it was such a short list of nominations. We anticipated that a lot of people would, in fact, accept nominations for this purpose. The opposite became true. We think the decision to possibly consider adding on names, getting those that have been submitted that may have one or two defects, for those defects to be cured so that the list is enriched. I think this is work that needs very, very careful consideration and efforts to ensure that that consideration is given to it can only add value to the work that will be done. I think I submit on those issues, Chairperson. The rest we can deal with. I just want to check with my colleagues if there's anything that perhaps I have omitted that they need to raise. Commissioner Love, I saw you there, and Commissioner Pillay.
Chairperson, the only thing that I would say is that I heard various good morning, honourable members. I heard various honourable members referring to different aspects of inclusivity and demographics. I think that the minister's report captures the fact that this is something that would need to be considered holistically. I don't think we attempted at this stage, given the shortness of the list, to sort of weight certain aspects of that differently. But clearly, if there were a longer list of nominations, then that kind of weighting that one of the members has asked for would, I have no doubt, be something that could be thought of. But it really is that there needed to be balance, and there needed to be a sense that the nation could look to this committee in a way that it reflects. Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Pillay.
Thank you very much. I've listened to the inputs from the minister and the members, and good morning to all of you. I think the panel could only be enhanced and benefit from the extension. that is being mooted. And it means actively encouraging people in the relevant demographic groups, women and people with disabilities, to make themselves available and to check out their capabilities as far as election work is concerned, and to encourage people to apply. It's not going to happen unless there's some activism around harvesting a good crop of panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Pillay. Minister, comments from the inputs?
Yeah, Chairperson, first of all, I would like to accept the sanction of the committee on the issue of missing deadlines. I was just trying to explain the difficulties, but otherwise I accept the sanction by members of the committee and take full responsibility for that, and assure that we'll try our best that in future, even the issue of Honorable Rios mentioned about the report not being available in 12 months, we'll make sure we'll try our best that does not happen. The reasons, Chair, on the IEC, while I want to ask that the members of parliament must maybe help to convince the IEC, as I see, it looks like the chairperson is amenable on releasing IEC employees. But on the commissioner's chairperson, it will be a very serious conflict of interest. I'm sure you noticed that. In the Act, it says in consultation with the IEC, not after. I'm sure you know the difference. It says in consultation. It cannot be then that I consult commissioners and then consult them about their names, which later appears. It's like in a government or even in the private sector, where you become a panelist and a candidate at the same time. I don't think for commissioners it will work, but I'm sure we need to open discussion with the IEC about the employees because they don't participate in that consultation. The issue of demographic members, we did not mention any. We just demographic will include things like age, gender, disability, etc. The distribution in terms of languages and all that, but we just left it open, and that's why we believe it's very important. The issue of members who chairperson took parliament to court on various of these things, we did not necessarily put it as an excluding criteria. But if you remember criteria number, if I'm not mistaken, it's number 9, where we are mentioning people who went all out. We thought they are covered by that. Those who went to court because they went there to go all out and say what you are doing here is unacceptable and all that. We thought they will be covered by that. Honorable Lowase, yes, we need 9 members, but we put 12 just for the sake of choice. If on reopening people want us to shortlist up to exactly 9 members, I think we'll do so. Guidance must be given by the committee. Honorable members, this issue of women, I want you to look at it very carefully because we have said it before. If you check local government, there are few women who are nominated publicly to be in the wards. Check all the 4,000 ward councillors in the country. You are going to find that a very small number are women. Women who are in council from political parties are usually coming through proportional representation, named by the parties themselves. That tells you something, even about what you want to do in this project, about the type of electoral system. I am just giving you that as a homework. Go and look at all the 4,000 wards in the country. Check how many women are ward councillors as opposed to proportional representation brought deliberately by political parties. Honorable Lukota worried very much about that. Honorable viewers, I really want guidance from the committee. I've always given you reports on time. I'm sure you know the last time we never gave any report on time must be about 2 years back. All the time we're stuck to the time. This particular one, I thought, because it has got names of people, look, this was a new process to all of us. It has got names of people, things that might be sensitive. And it's not because I don't trust members. Anything sent electronically, you are aware that something can happen to it. I was jittery about starting to read about names of people in newspapers, even before I come in front of members of the committee. If for the future, because it looks like you're agreeing on the opening, you believe I must submit this document to members before, maybe we might have to courier it and people sign for it and all that, and we'll do that before time. So the fact that I didn't send the committee is not because I didn't want to. I just thought it will be very dangerous for this type of process. But we get it from you. You'll give us instruction on how to submit it. But electronically, I can tell you, things leak. Any electronic thing, things that is sent that way will leak. Chair, I think that's really what I needed to say. So the issues we want from committee is at what stage do we give this report after the opening, and whether you do understand that we can't send it electronically, there will be a problem. The second thing is to negotiate with the IEC to re-look at their resolution of not allowing IEC employees, but definitely, Chair, not commissioners. It will be a very, very bad thing, a precedent to do in terms of conflicts of interest. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much, Minister. And thanks, honorable members, for interacting with the presentation, noting the reports that has been presented. The committee resolved, Minister, that the process must be reopened immediately with the time frame. Look at January, but I think the advert should go out soon, so that at least by January you are able to conclude the process in consultation with the IEC. The committee also notes that there are already members who have applied, and there won't be any need for them to reapply. We just have to add and see how many we'll get. I think the framework on the issues raised, you have noted, and I think you've articulated on them. The issue of the report, as you have raised, Minister, will deal with that. It's an administrative matter that I think the committee secretary and your team will able to deal with that. Then we'll be able to see how far we interact with the reports. It's an important matter, so that at least we protect the confidentiality of the matters of the details of the report. So that is the issues that members have considered and guided the ministry. The committee also persuade you, Minister, to interact with the IEC in relation to the representation in the team. I think the committee is convinced that I think we may need to see how the IEC reconsider their position, and I think they will guide us in terms of how they need to assist the team. Those are the 4 key areas that the committee has resolved. And other issues, Minister, you've captured them correctly, and members and also the IEC have looked at them. Want to thank members for having interacted on this report, but also giving guidance on how we must proceed on these issues. The documents that must be sent earlier for members to consult even, and also to consult with their parties. It's important, Minister, that we may need to note that in our next session. We have now dealt with this part. We'll stand off this item. We'll release the Commissioner Mieta and the team, and also release the minister as is requested. And we request the Honorable Modise to preside over as the apology has been accepted by the committee on our part. Honorable Modise.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Honorable Modise.
Thank you very much, Chair. We can proceed with the next item, and I'll take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. So the next item in this instance is the presentation by the Border Management Authority regarding the state of readiness for the 2023-2024 festive period. So as we always do around this time, Honorable Chair and committee members, we fairly come through as the Border Management Authority to reflect on our preparedness in terms of managing the volumes during the festive period, fairly around the Christmas period, as well as during the first few weeks of the new year during the return. So in terms of the flow of the presentation, the first issue is just to reflect a bit on how the statistical field looked like from where we come from, and of course the level of recovery in terms of the volumes coming out of the COVID period. We will do reflect on the key context in terms of security that we had fairly been receiving from our intelligence community as we were planning for the process. And then we'll reflect on the planning process itself, and of course the issue relating to the execution and some of the support that we had already pursued from other stakeholders in this particular process. And we'll conclude by reflecting on issues relating to media and communication. So in terms of the general overview, Honorable Chair and committee members, there is one thing that we are very much kind of confident on, and we know for sure, is that in this period, there is a very significant increase in terms of the movement of persons as well as goods around our ports of entries, as it were. So that had fairly been evident, even in the past period, we have actually seen that. But we have also seen that as the congestion increases, there are some dynamics that we need to be able to manage. And of course, there are some security related issues that we need to work on. And it is on that basis that we had to do this intensive planning to be able to prepare for those. I suppose on the right-hand side, you will see some of the typical pictures of some of the experiences of the past around this particular period. Now, if we can then look a bit in terms of how the statistical move looks like, particularly in terms of how we have been handling the movement of persons, you will realize that during the December of 2017, we were sitting at around 6 million people that we facilitated, both in and out of the Republic, both citizens as well as foreigners. And in 2018 December, we did around 6.3 million. In 2019 December, we did around 6 million. So all in all, you will see the average. If you were to look at those 3 years, we're sitting at around 6 million in average. But of course, we do know that in 2020, there was a COVID reality, and the number literally dropped from 6 million to over around 1.2. And of course, in 2021 December, you will see there that there is a recovery a bit of 400,000, which then put us at around 1.6. So after all of the regulations has been lifted, just in the December of 2022, you could see now we are starting to go up, and we had been at 4 million at the time, which is last December. So we are fairly kind of confident that in this current December, we are likely to catch up in a way and go back to around 6 million, which was the pre-COVID numbers, as it were. So that is basically just to reflect on the kind of environment that we are operating in. Now, if we were to look at just the flow in terms of our top 10 ports of entries, as it were, you will realize that OR Tambo still continues to be the top port that brings the majority of the people into the Republic and also exit the majority of the people. That is then followed by Oh, by the way, just in the past financial year, we were able to note that Libombo for the first time actually surpassed Beitbridge in terms of the numbers. And our analysis around that was on the basis of the uncertainties regarding the ZEP, the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit issues. You will remember when we were going towards December, around that time, there was that discussion, and of course, there were those court cases and all of that. And what we effectively observed is that the majority of Zimbabweans were very much hesitant to exit the country, particularly at Beitbridge, as it were. And that is why the numbers dropped. And of course, Libombo actually picked up. So this is fairly the numbers in terms of our top 10 ports as it stands, in terms of the numbers of the people that we had fairly been managing. You'll see Fixburg and Maseru Bridge, the two main in terms of entering and exiting Lesotho, as it were. And of course, Cape Town International becoming the second in terms of air, as it were. So this is basically a statistical fill in terms of the work that we do in this kind of a period. So what we just wanted to indicate in as far as this particular slide is just to indicate that the issue that we have to be dealing with, which is very much problematic, is the issue of corridor management. And we do know that in terms of effective corridor management, we require a multiplicity of stakeholders. Amongst those will be the local traffic colleagues, it will be the provincial traffic colleagues, but also members of the SAPS to ensure that there is order on the corridor towards the port, as it were. And I think on that basis, we are fairly aware that in terms of the jurisdictional environment, in terms of the workings of the Border Management Authority, it is in the port itself, but also 10 kilometers inland, and that covers some of the areas around the corridor. It is on that basis that we had to then gather a multiplicity of stakeholders to be able to work with them in dealing with the issues in as far as the corridor is concerned. And subsequent to that, we do know the biggest challenge that we have to be dealing with, which is illegal migration. Fairly ready in terms of all of those realities, and of course the planning has taken care of that, as it were. Now, the risk and threat assessment that we have received as part of this planning process this time around fairly identified 8 areas of vulnerability, and this came out of the work that has been done by our intelligence services, fairly led by the State Security Agency, but together with crime intelligence and the rest of the intelligence stakeholders. So fairly, they said there are 8 areas that we need to be alert on and be able to make sure that as we do this work, as we go into this period, we are alert of these particular realities. Most of these are not fairly new, but we do know that the work has to be done to make sure that indeed the issues are fairly identified. For instance, the first one is fraudulent travel documents. One area that becomes very much problematic in this period. So as the BMA, we are fairly alert and awake to make sure that we are able to identify individuals who will try to exit or enter the Republic with such kind of documents and be able to address that accordingly. And of course, the second one is the fraudulent stamping of travel documents, which we know it is a threat from within, primarily in 2 ways. Instances where our own employees actually do these things, or instances where stamps actually get copied through. And on that basis, we are fairly alert in as far as that particular issue. Undocumented travelers is one of the key ones that we're also going to be alert on. Personal integrity challenges. This is insider threat. And as I've indicated, we are fairly alert in as far as this part is concerned, and we will have the colleagues on the ground to assist us to deal with that. Access control challenges is one of those which create a lot of runners in the environment, and it makes our work a bit difficult, which also then brings in some smugglers in the space. But again, as identified as a threat or as a concern, we are actually alert of that, and we should be able to deal with that. The challenges regarding pedestrians, we do know, is one of those, particularly around the land ports, as it were, primarily because there are a lot of communities in the ports area, and it made things a bit difficult. When it comes to the issues of electricity supply, which we do know now as we speak around the issues of the load shedding levels, we are very much ready in terms of our generator capacity to can be able to make sure that we run with the issues. When we had to do or to deal with the return, we do know that the majority of the issues that we need to be dealing with is the people who then avoid coming to the port and going to the borderline and wanting to walk into the country illegally. On that basis, we are also aware in as far as that part is concerned, and our plan is effectively developed to address all of these key 8 areas also as identified by the intelligence community. So in terms of the actual flow, in terms of our planning process, this time around, we started a bit earlier in September, but the actual planning in terms of the sitting down started in October, as it went, and it is to end next week on the 5th. And on that basis, we will then start the execution of our plan from the 6th, and it is going to end on the 18th in the new year. And of course, on the 19th, we'll then start with our demobilization, as it went. And of course, from the 20th, we are going to start sustaining some of the things that we would have put on the table, as it were. The contents of the activities that we do in the planning phase are fairly covered then, but the key issue is to note that we do bottom-up planning. Each and every port, as it were, do their own port plan, and out of that, the regional commanders have to then infuse the various port plans and be able to create a regional plan, as it were, that covers the various ports into the region, as it were. And on that basis, we are then able to escalate that to the national level and make sure that we involve the other stakeholders through the NAT Joints platform. In this instance, we have to then bring the rest of the other stakeholders and make sure that the entire system runs together in complementing each other's work. And of course, the execution, as it is indicated, is where we will be doing the actual implementation of the plan. So that is fairly the essence as it stands. And of course, the demobilization will have to deactivate some of the additional resources that we have put on the table. Now, this particular slide starts to reflect on what is the overall objective in this particular process. So the first key part is to ensure that there is efficient and effective port operations, particularly in the facilitation of people, but also in the facilitation of trade during this period. But at the same time, as we do trade facilitation and people facilitation, we have to then look at the illegalities. In this instance, we have to ensure that those people who are trying to enter and exit the Republic illegally or even move counterfeit goods or goods that are not declared as they're supposed to be is part of what we need to be putting our effort on. So the key issues in terms of the work as tabulated there from A to E, it is all about illegal cross-border movement. That is our focus area in terms of making sure that there is order in the environment, but also the issues of effective apprehension of the undocumented persons and be able to process them out of the Republic as required by law, but also to be alert in terms of detecting narcotics, contraband, as well as the stolen vehicles. We do know in this period, there are a lot of those criminal elements that will try to exit stolen vehicles through the ports, and we have to be very much alert of that. As we do this work, as the Border Management Authority Act tells us in Section 5, subsection C, we have to cooperate with SAPS, with Revenue Authority, with the SANDF, border communities, and any other key stakeholder in as far as the issues are concerned. Now, at the bottom right, we start to indicate what are the critical dates. We call them the pressure points. You will be remembering, committee members, that the 15th has been declared by the president as a holiday. It is on a Friday. So we are expecting that the first volumes will be experienced from the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, so that by Friday, which is a holiday, people would have exited, as it were. So the 14th is considered as the first high-level pressure point, as it were. The second group of dates will be the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, preparing for exit for Christmas, as it were. And there will be some limited also pressure point towards the 1st, which is the last group trying to go out to cut the year on the other side and all of those. And of course, from there, we'll then have to start handling the return, which is going to be in the new year, primarily from the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, up to the 5th. And of course, the next weekend towards the school reopening period, there is going to be that last pressure point. So we have identified all of these critical dates, and our deployments are fairly structured well to be able to address these particular instances, as it were. Now, on this particular slide, we are starting to demonstrate the level of deployment, particularly around the borderline. You will be noting in this instance that we do have members of the SANDF in the vulnerable areas around the borderline, as it were, under Operation Corona, and their deployment is demonstrated by a red dot, as it were. In terms of the blue dot, we are starting to demonstrate the deployment of the border guards, which are actually operating hand in hand with members of the SANDF on the vulnerable segments on the borderline, primarily to deal with issues of countering illegal migration, but also countering the movement of illicit goods into the Republic, but also looking out for any vehicle that might have been stolen through which people might want to exit it on the borderline into the other jurisdictions. And that is fairly how we have then deployed. Something that is fairly new is the other, I would say, a dark greener line at the bottom around the sea. That one is a demonstration of the coastal guards that we have just enrolled quite recently. They have started being deployed on the coastline to be able to start doing some bit of work there around the protection of our marine resources. They do not as yet have the proper tools of trade. We've already started the process of procuring the boats for them via AMSCO. And we do believe that in the new year, once we get delivery of that, they should be able to be practically mobile. In the meantime, they still work with the rest of the colleagues into the environment, but they are already on the ground, as it were. Now, there are also issues, as I have indicated, that are fairly considered as the key areas of concern. Out of the 8 issues identified by the intelligence community as the issues of concern, there are 2 main ones that we need to be able to put more effort on. The first one is handling issues relating to congestion. As we have indicated, this one is purely on corridor-related issues. And to that extent, there has been a lot of work that we have done with the local traffic colleagues, whether are those in Musina traffic, whether they are those in Libombo area, in Mpumalanga, whether they are those in the Free State, around Maseru Bridge, Fixback, and all of those, to make sure that we bring some order in as far as the corridor is concerned. But out of all of the existing corridors, we do know that there are 2 main top ones that are of serious focus. N4 being the one to Libombo, and N1 being the one to Beit Bridge. Those are our top corridors that we have put more effort on to make sure that there is order so that we are able to handle the issues of congestion accordingly. And of course, when it comes to the return, the biggest issue is illegal migration. We do know at this point that this is the period where people exit the country and try to then start to attempt to, I would say, push some people into the Republic illegally and try to facilitate that kind of movement. So as we did in the last December, we have some additional resources that we are going to be deploying along the vulnerable areas, which we know people always use those areas to try and enter the Republic illegally. Our deployment will be fully intensified immediately after the new year from the 2nd to make sure that we are able to counter all of those kind of issues. The intelligence community, as I've indicated, continues to give us those pressure points to be able to make sure that we do the work accordingly. Now, in terms of doing this work, there is some bit of things that we do mostly around this time. Chair and committee members will remember that there are ports that are operating 24 hours in the Republic, but at the same time, there are those that are not operating 24 hours. So in this period, what we do, we approach the Minister of Home Affairs as the chair of the Interministerial Consultative Committee on Border Management to be able to allow us to extend some operating hours just for this period so that we can be able to handle the pressure points and be able to handle the traffic, as it were. So even in this instance, we have done that. So you'll realize that Groblersdorp as well as Swartkopfontein as the key 2 ports with Botswana, we have extended the operating hours by 2 hours. You'll see that we are either adding 2 hours on the end of closing time, or we open a bit earlier and we close a bit an hour earlier and later, which then becomes 2 hours extension. And this is the rest of the ports that we also have the same kind of instance. I do not think it will be necessary to try and recite what each one is, but you will realize that for most of this, we have extended by 2 hours. Most of the time, we start 1 hour earlier and we then close 1 hour later, or we just start the normal time, but we close 2 hours later. And this is basically what we do. You will realize that most of our top ports are not here. And the reason they are not here is because they are already on 24-hour basis, and therefore it is not necessary to have this kind of an application. And of course, the periods of the extension are defined at the column at the end of the slides, as it were. And you will see there that we are actually extending in those particular dates that we describe as the critical pressure point dates, as it were. Now, one thing that we know, and this one is a reality, is the fact that the BMA started operating 1st of April. We had inherited the colleagues that had been working for the 4 government departments into the BMA. At the same time, we do know that at the end, there has been serious incapacity in as far as human resources is concerned in all of the departments. But the most critical department becomes Home Affairs, primarily because immigration becomes a service that BMA provides at the port that cannot be jumped. Each and every traveler has to have an interaction with an immigration officer. But in terms of health, for example, most of the work that gets done in terms of their scanning and all of that, it is not necessarily one-on-one. Most of those are done through systems, and therefore it becomes a bit easier. It is for that reason that we have requested additional capacity in terms of human resources from the Department of Home Affairs, and the DG is here, and we are very much glad that he was able to agree that he will give us 318 what we call immigration specialists that are going to come through into the BMA and assist us in this particular period. That already is a demonstration of the incapacity issues within BMA from a human resources point of view. But we do believe as we go into the future, we should be able to start recruiting some of these people. For now, we can indicate that we've advertised around 68 positions of immigration immigration specialists so that we can start augmenting ourselves. For the return, we have also requested around 60 officials from the inspectorate who are actually trained law enforcement officers who are under normal circumstances working inland under the inspectorate platform, but we've requested them to augment our border guards on the vulnerable segments on the borderline for this particular purpose. And as the BMA, we have to then take responsibility in terms of their financials and all of that, so that we can be able to handle this period as it is supposed to be handled. Now, in any event, because our ports as we know them are not necessarily structured in a way infrastructurally that they're able to handle serious capacities and all of that, in this particular period, we always require some kind of your mobile additional infrastructure resources, particularly in this instance from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. We have already done that. We have already sent the request and they've already done the approval. So you will see there that, for example, we do have some temporary fencing that we will get from the department, primarily to do some demarcations for better management of people as they arrive at the port. We will also be asking for some JoJo tankers to be able to provide water to the travelers in the period, some tents, some tables, some chairs, and all of those kind of things. But you can see there that we have started deploying those new infrastructure in the environment, and we will be undoing them on the 20th as indicated after the 19th, which is the period of demobilization, as it were. And of course, this is just purely on the basis that we do not have all the adequate and necessary infrastructure at our ports to can be able to handle the volumes that comes through at this period. So that is basically the essence. When it comes to communication, the aspect of communication, we are basically just indicating here that for the purposes of avoiding any confusion, the Border Management Authority communication team will lead the overall border management communication, but that does not mean the rest of the other stakeholders are not to communicate. The police will communicate in terms of the work they do. The traffic will communicate in terms of the work they do, but the overall border management communication becomes more central so that there is some kind of now, we can then look at the critical.
Just hold, Commissioner. Honorable Bongo, can you kindly mute your mic?
But at least we were there.
Thank you very much. You can continue, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Chair. So basically, this is almost the last slide. What are the critical success factors for us to be able to do this work in the manner that is supposed to be done? As indicated, it is purely the issue of better corridor management. And I think the honorable members are fairly aware of the challenges we are dealing with now, even outside the period, just now in terms of Libombo, as it were, in terms of the trucks carrying minerals to Maputo port, as it were. One of the biggest challenges that we deal with as we meet in a number of times to deal with those issues there, it is purely the issues of corridor management. We do have certain protocols to say all of the minerals, they have to stick to the left lane. And of course, when it comes to general cargo, They have to be on the line, but perishables must be able to go straight to the port. But in the midst of all of those arrangements, we still have people wanting to block the road, wanting to jump the queue, and it just creates chaos in the environment. And of course, the volumes are also not helpful in the environment. And we know the underlying issues, the issues of trains and all of that are supposed to be helping us in taking the minerals, as it were. So this, I would say, is the key critical success factors. If we can better manage the corridor, we better facilitate the process in the port, and we will then be able to achieve some of these issues, as it were. We cannot say that we've been fully tested as the Border Management Authority in particular, primarily because we handled the 2 periods. And those 2 periods, as you have seen with the numbers, they were fairly a bit low on the basis of the COVID recovery. So if we are to get to a 6 million, as we had indicated earlier, that will then be the real test for the BMA, and we suppose that we should be able to stand that trial. We were able to do better facilitation in our conviction in the past December, and we did the same also in Good Friday. And on that basis, we do believe that with this planning that we have done, we should be able to facilitate everything. Now, for the portfolio committee, the intention is to request the portfolio committee to note this plan and to note the period of implementation, and ultimately to support us as we do this work. And of course, we'll be coming after the work has been done to do a feedback report to the committee in terms of how we have handled the situation. Thank you very much, Chair and the committee members.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Members, we have received the briefing with regards to the BMA plan for the festive season. We will now take discussions or comments in this manner. We will take Honorable Mulikwa, followed by Honorable Likota, then Honorable Lehwase, followed by Honorable Lizel, Honorable Pillay, Honorable Rose, and Honorable Bongo. In that order. Honorable Asnat.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also appreciate the presentation. I think it is very comprehensive on the readiness of the festive preparedness at the port of entry. The Chairperson, I just want to check with the Commissioner that it is not possible for the BMA and other law enforcement agencies to rotate the deployment of staff in order to curb the corrupt activity that are happening at the port of entry. Because I think if person stays in one port of entry for a long time, obviously is going to be able, or she is going to be able to be familiar with the people who are passing from one other to the other, or one country to the other. But I think if there is that rotational, that no staff should stay longer in one port of entry, it will be better to deal with the issue of the corrupt activities at the border gate. But otherwise, Chairperson, I want to know the report has been presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Likota.
Thank you, Chairperson, and for this presentation. I think that it gives us a broad picture of what the border situation will be looking like in this coming period. I think it gives us an awareness in which wherever we are, we might be able to play positive roles and give the public some good advice. I thank you very much for this. And I hope that when we return, we will be able to bring back positive feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lehwase.
Thank you very much, Chair. And let me also join my colleague in appreciating the representation put before us, Chair. But Chair, my interest would be to have an explanation of the roles between the SANDF and the BMA, the clarity on the roles which they will be playing. But also adding on what Honorable Molekwa has said on the issue of rotating of staff, I will also like to know how will the BMA ensure the personnel integrity and the security consciousness of port officials, and to prevent corruption and unprofessional conducts which may be caused of the issues raised by Honorable Asnat Molekwa. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you as well to the BMA for the presentation. Unfortunately, Chair, one thing that we cannot run away from is the fact that the BMA has been given a massive or a mammoth task without the requisite resources in order to run this operation that is expected from them. And so when we look at the presentation, I think it correctly diagnoses all of the struggles that we face daily in terms of immigration management, in that it spoke about fraudulent or illegal stamping of travel documentation. And we know, for example, that even though the BMA is currently in place, this still happens at our borders, where people who move in and out of our borders pay. And I mean, you know, when you engage with people who are here or illegally, they will tell you that, it will cost you 3,000 Rand or it costs you 6,000 Rand. So definitely these practices are still happening. And then really the question becomes, the presentation for me, it highlighted the problems, but I didn't get the essence of how we will adequately address it. So we're talking about undocumented travelers, which we know is a problem. We're talking about the issues of corruption. We're talking about the fact that people will come in and out of the border illegally, but then it's mentioned, and I don't get the sense of exactly how we're going to tackle it. For example, let's start with the border. In some instances, and when we talk about the border between ourselves and Mozambique, or between ourselves and Zimbabwe, we know that the borderline, the border fence, or the washing line, as some have coined it, is missing. And even just recently, when people go and people talk about the fact that you stand at the border and you see people crossing. When we went for oversight ourselves, we saw the borderline, we saw the gates were open, we saw the holes in the border. So my question really becomes, there's a presentation before us. I don't see how we hope for the success of the implementation of this plan when, for example, there is no border in some instances. So I would like to get a sense of how are we going to be deploying the SANDF to cover the holes? In other words, that they'll be stationed there, or what is the plan? Because without a physical border, you need, for example, as we spoke previously about drones, we don't have money for drones. We don't have, and also with regards to the issue of corruption and people stamping passports for money, what is the additional measures that will be put in place to ensure that these practices do not take place? In other words, have we now installed CCTV cameras? Are there people monitoring the officials? What is the enhanced mechanisms really is what I'm getting at, because I don't think we can just say we know the problems and we are alert to them without giving me the specifics of how exactly we will be addressing these issues. So the slides, on slide 17, it speaks to the additional 318 staff members that will be allocated to the BMA. And of course, we welcome this. But really my question then is, with these additional staff that you're getting, what is the shortfall currently as you go into the festive season in terms of staff? What is the staff shortage after the 318 that will be allocated to you? And what is the budget and timeline for the additional staffing capacity at selected ports? I know I heard we said that after the 318 is given to you, there will be an additional process of now, getting more staff, but timeframes in that regard. Then on one of the slides, it speaks to the continuous engagement with our neighboring countries on matters relating to border integrity. And I'm always interested in this because, our neighboring countries, we engage with them, but it seems that these engagements are not fruitful because undocumented migrants are still streaming into our country without any consequences. So I really want to know what are normally the engagements? What positive outcomes do we get from these engagements? Because it doesn't seem to be working, in my view. Yeah, I've asked about corruption and the, what are we going to do to ensure that there's no people taking money to stamp passports or corruption in general. And then, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. But recently, we heard the minister when he tabled his immigration reform policies for public comment or the white paper. He made the comment that there's no, we do not know how many undocumented migrants are within our borders. And, Chairperson, I just want to say again, it points to a couple of issues. It points to the fact that we really need to beef up internal enforcement. We need to get to a point where we get a hold of the fact that, remember, undocumented migrants, it's a threat to the state, to our security, to our state, to the economy in terms of counterfeit goods. That people, small businesses run by, we saw recently the spaza shop sector where people are selling counterfeit goods. Those shops are run in most instances by foreign nationals. So we need to get a handle of our immigration crisis, not only at our borders, but internal enforcement must also be beefed up because, the minister himself saying he doesn't know how many undocumented migrants are in our borders points to a crisis that needs a permanent resolution. Thank you, Chairperson.
Very much. Honorable Pillay.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, let me first welcome the presentation and the report and the update. And I think that there has been significant improvements and progress. Chair, the first one is in light of OR Tambo being so busy, is there a plan to deploy additional staff to OR Tambo particularly so that we're able to cater for the influx, especially around this period? And then how is the BMA conducting situational risk analysis of the various ports of entry? And how will this be reviewed after the execution of the plan? And Chair, I want to make specific reference to the port of entry of Durban, where the country is losing almost 1 billion rand per day, with containers of, I think, about 80,000 still at sea and some having to be diverted. Perhaps if they can just tell us what is happening there. Has there been any intervention? Because clearly there's a crisis in the Durban port. Thank you, Chair.
Very much. Honorable Ross.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Dr. Masiapata for the presentation. And I'm wishing you everything of the best for this December holiday season. I think it's quite alarming, the tourism and travel statistics that are coming through. I'm not quite sure whether that's still related to COVID or not. It's quite a bit lower, but nevertheless, I certainly want to echo the sentiments of Honourable Lizelle. If we look at the capabilities and the capacity of the BMA, and our immigration system in general. I mean, you look at internal enforcement, and to my memory, we have about 770, 780 internal enforcement officers. I'm not sure if I'm correct in saying that you intend to take 318 of these persons and second them to the borders, which would leave us with literally about 400 immigration enforcement personnel across the entire country. I don't know if you can just clarify that. Where are these 318 coming from? I think if we look at border times, I'm certainly interested in knowing whether we are liaising with our neighboring countries in this regard. I know there's been challenges in the past where the border on the one side was open for an extended period of time, but then when you get through, the other border is closed. So it creates a roadblock. I just want to get an indication of whether there has been that liaison with neighboring countries to ensure that while we wait for the one-stop border posts, that there won't be any misalignment at those borders, which causes chaos. Then in terms of OR Tambo, I think, it's something even in outside of the very, very busiest periods, there has been plenty of issues with only 2 or 3 immigration counters open, despite there being many big long-haul flights that have come in. So if you say you're allocating 60 extra staff to OR Tambo, Are these going to ensure that all the immigration counters are manned at all times? And are they trained on the relevant systems that they would need to use in that regard? Then I was also at OR Tambo a while back, and there was some consternation. There was some announcement about the system being offline and requesting for people to be patient. What are the system offline issues there that stop travelers coming in? And is that being looked at in terms of how there is IT support on standby in case there is any system offline issue to prevent such a disaster from happening? I know in the registration weekend, then the government saw fit to load a patch while we were right in the middle of an absolute peak period on our IEC systems. And I just want to make sure that we don't have similar mishaps with the systems being used at our border posts. Then in terms of load shedding preparation, I think we understand that load shedding was supposed to be finished today. It definitely isn't finished. What are the plans at all the border posts to ensure that there is generator capacity and there's full backup capacity? I see you have water infrastructure there, but please just take us through the preparations to counter load shedding at our border posts. And then you mentioned infrastructure and the provision of water tankers, etc. To what extent does that go inland? We've seen issues before with trucks piling up for kilometers and then there being no bathroom facilities, no vending facilities, and this causing some issues and safety risks. So will those infrastructure, will that infrastructure supplementation, will it only be at the border post itself, or will it be inside the border management area going several kilometers inland to make sure that where there are queues, that persons have adequate access to toilet facilities, water, etc.? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Bongo.
No, thanks, Chair. I think mine is to appreciate the report. I must say this, that I must commend the commissioner. Since it has started the BMA, it seems like it's all systems go. My only worry and what I want to know better is the integration of staff from this sector department. Has it been finalized at this point? And secondly, what I want to know, Chair, is I was driving towards Mozambique, I think last week or so. The number of trucks, they start just after Malelan to the port. It will look like the work there is more than the one that we saw at Bay Bridge. What are the force multipliers that have been put to ensure that that situation is properly controlled? Because if it's not properly controlled this time of the year, I foresee some disaster, because there's also road construction along the road. There's all manner of things. So I just want to find out those. Other than that, I'm happy with the report. I'm happy with the work that the Commissioner and the team are putting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members, for your contributions and comments. I will then allow the Commissioner to make his responses. Commissioner?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Honorable Chair and the committee members. Suffice to say that I do have the Deputy Commissioner Operations in the call, and together with the assistant, the Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Van Neil, I suppose, is here. But also we do have the colleagues from Home Affairs. I have seen Mudiri Matthews, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around here. He is the one in charge of the inspectorate. I suppose he will also be able to cover on some of those aspects. So let me just quickly run through the questions, honorable members, and then the colleagues will be able to come through to fill if there's any issue that that we need to add on. Firstly, in terms of Honorable Molekwa, is it possible to rotate staff? I think one thing that we can all agree, Honorable Molekwa, is indeed the model of staff rotation is a good model, and it is a model that indeed has proven that it does assist in addressing the issues of corruption, as it were. And by the way, that is one model that the apartheid government had also perfected. But for that particular model to be practicalized and to be properly done, if you remember in the apartheid times, even with the police, they used to have what you call your bungalows or your kind of hostels, lack of a better word. And that is where the officers will actually be accommodated. The state will be taking care of them. And on that basis, you are able to take them from here, and then you take them to the next area they work. You take them from here, you take them to the next area they work. So that is something that has been perfected during the apartheid times. But unfortunately, in the current reality, all those hostile concepts started to disappear. What you then have as a reality is that people now buy houses and now they move from their houses to work. So even law enforcement has now become normal officials, as it were. They have now families, they have now children in this school and things like that. So once you then move from that traditional law enforcement model into what we have done now, you then have a struggle where you have to then be moving officials all around. I had a conversation, Honorable Molekwa, with the leadership of SAPS. They are suffering from that. And that is why I'm starting there, because I'm giving the bigger picture. Now, if you have to be taking, let's say, police to a particular area, you will realize that you have to literally accommodate them in some B&Bs and hotels and all of that, which then becomes a very expensive enterprise. And that is also the struggling that actually the police has. Now, back to the BMA. Indeed, we do agree with this model, but the problem we are sitting with is the same kind of problem that I've just described. That is why part of our future model is to allow a PPP, public-private partnership, in the same way we have done with this one that is going to redesign our ports. The intention of having a PPP in this instance is to allow the private sector to go to ports and build what we call staff accommodation. So once we succeed in doing that, then we do that across various ports, then definitely you can be able to move teams, officers from this area this time, you are deployed that side. And the colleagues will then exit the staff accommodation that side and come and actually be accommodated this time. That is the better model, and that is what we are going to be ultimately doing. It is not going to be a short term. It's going to take us a bit of time because we need to reach that objective. Once we have done that, we will be able to do this. But if we just say, you are employed to work in Beitbridge, and we say next week you must be in Kasha's Neck in the mountains in Lesotho, we need to accommodate you there. And that is a very expensive enterprise. I'm not saying we are not, so in other words, I'm saying we agree with the principle of rotation, but it needs particular things to be available for that to be done proper, as it were. Now, the other issue that is being referred to, Honorable Molekwa, is the issue relating to what is it that we are supposed to be doing to address some of the corruption elements. You know, if you are to look at our plan from a BMA point of view, it is very much clear on the things that we are supposed to be doing. But the reality of it is it requires a bit of resources. And the unfortunate reality, as Honorable Father Merve indicated, we don't have much money. For instance, one of the best, easiest thing to do, each and every officer must have a body cam that must be controlled, not by themselves, but controlled from a central point. That particular body cam gets switched off when people have to go to the bathroom. And that can only be done through the instruction or through the approval of the supervisor or the shift commander at call. On that particular basis, once that get achieved, every interaction of every official is on camera. Automatically, it deals with all of this thing once for all. So we are pursuing those kind of issues. But like I'm saying, it couldn't be possible just in the past
I would say 6-7 months that we have started in the journey. But we can assure you, we have all of these plans on paper, and we do believe that at some point we should be able to realize them. And it's very much possible, because these things are not just on the internet or just ideas. Other jurisdictions are deploying these models. We have seen them in operation. And most of those people, even when you talk corruption of border officials, it's a story to them, because it doesn't arise just on the basis of the model that they are implementing. We should be able to reach there. We just need some bit of resource to be able to do so. Honorable Lukota, we do appreciate the broader input that you have indicated, that indeed, even the committee members, wherever you will be, if you could be able to assist us to look at the work that we are supposed to be doing and provide that political cover as we do this work on the ground. Honorable Lehwase, the issue of the role of the BMA as well as the SANDF. You see, this particular role is defined in law. The people, I mean, by the way, is yourselves, when you wrote the BMA Act, you had indicated that we needed to write down an implementation protocol. Section 27 of the BMA Act is very explicit on that. I think Honorable Bongo will even remember it well. Now, if you were to look at that, we have set up the protocols. They define practically what is it that the SAPS does, BMA does. What is it that SARS does, BMA does. What is it that the police does, and what BMA does. Now, in terms of the SNDF, just in short, because if we can really go into the details, it will take us a long time. But just to reflect on the BMA and the SNDF. Remember the BMA, I mean, the Defense Act and the Constitution, it says, the SNDF, your responsibility is border protection, is border safeguarding, protect the country's territorial integrity. What that basically means is they are supposed to be protecting the country from any possible invasion. Under normal circumstances, the SNDF exists to make sure that the country does not get taken over, in other words. And by protocol that talks to possible military takeover, either by a military or some kind of an organized force, as it were. So that is their responsibility. Now, what is the role of the border guards, the BMA? The president has given us functions through Section 98 of the Constitution. And those functions cut across immigration functions, environmental functions, agricultural functions, and health functions. What does that mean? It means that the border guards, when they are on the borderline, in 10-kilometer radius from the borderline into the country, that is a border law enforcement area. They must implement border laws. And what are those laws? One of those is immigration. If a 5-year-old crossed the borderline into the Republic illegally, that person has subverted immigration laws. Then the border guards arrest the person, and obviously we do the entire administration, do deportations. However, if the SANDF come across such, it doesn't mean they leave the person. They also do the arrest, but they hand over to the BMA to be able to do the admin. Similarly, we have agriculture functions. We must make sure animals don't cross from other jurisdictions into our side and ultimately bring in some foot and mouth disease. So we have that responsibility. Once an animal does that, we capture the animal, we activate the veterinarians, we process the animal with the next jurisdiction, and we have to get it out of the Republic. So that is the work of the border guard. The SNDF wouldn't necessarily be created to run after some goats and cattle that cross the borderline. That is the role of the border guards, and the rest continues like that. So the work is not necessarily competitive, but the work is complementary in terms of the way the laws have been designed. So that is fairly the difference, but we can go into specific details if the members would want us to deal with that. The issue of staff integrity. I think one thing that is good about the BMA Act, Section 13 says everybody has to undergo a vetting process. Now, the colleagues that we have integrated, they came from departments that did not have that provision. At least BMA has it. So that is the work that we are busy doing with the SSA across all the colleagues that we have integrated. The intention for doing that is to fulfill that objective. Unfortunately, what it means that out of that work, there are colleagues that are obviously going to be finding themselves on the other side of the reality. Obviously, if they are really found to be very much lacking the integrity, as it were. And of course, going forward, that will then enable us to do continuous lifestyle audits, because we should be able to say, this is your portfolio, how does it get increased? How did you acquire all this? And obviously, inability to explain all of those
it then requires intensive further engagement. But all those are the plans that we have as BMA just outside the festive period going into the future. So let me try to run a bit with speed. The colleagues should be able to come through to add. Honorable van der Merwe, I think the broader issues that you're raising are the issues that we also discussed with the committee in the past two interactions. Those were just issues that focused explicitly just on the BMA and the work and all of those kind of issues. Now, in dealing with a lot of the issues, Honorable van der Merwe, that you are indicating, those are the things that we have in plan, but not necessarily that we could be able to have them now in the festive season. A typical example, we have already made our submissions to AMSCO. As we speak now, AMSCO is busy in the process to procure very critical tools of trade for BMA to be able to start gaining ground. And one of those includes the issue of drones. And one of those includes the issue that I've spoken about, the issue of the speedboats that must be used by the coastal guards in protecting our marine resources. So all of those issues, we just got them now primarily because we're able to request some funding from CARA, the Criminal Asset Recovery Account, and we're able to get 150 million after we put in our business case. So with that money, we are busy procuring some of these things, and the majority of these things are going to enable us to be able to start addressing these historical problems that has been there. The issue of the stamps, I think Stephen is probably here. We are also working on changing the model of the stamps because they are easy to copy and they are easy to be interchanged, and people continue to abuse them. And now, as we speak, we are actually doing work to be able to get all of those issues addressed. The issue of the border fence, that is a reality. And I know the most topical one is the border fence in terms of the one with Zimbabwe. Just yesterday, in preparing for this meeting, I spoke to the advocate Mutibi, the head of the SIU, just wanting to understand what is the latest in terms of that issue of the border fence with Zimbabwe. So he indicated very explicitly that one, they investigated that after the DPWI has given the people the tender, and obviously they found it very clear that the service provided there was under standard, and obviously the man paid was more, and all of those. They took that into the tribunal and all of those things. The contract was declared illegal, and out of that, the service provider who did that had to pay back 40 million into DPWI. So what has DPWI had to do was then to ask the Defense Force and ourselves to now give them specifications, and they will have to then go to the market to be able to get a better service provider who will provide a better fence in as far as that part is concerned. So that particular one in particular is actually underway as we speak. The 3.8 that we talk about, and of course, the honorable member is asking what is the overall staff capacity issues of the BMA. Like I'm saying, the majority of the issues, we discussed them in the previous meeting to the committee. But what we can say for now is that, firstly, I mean, I can just give a practical example that we are supposed to do environmental biosecurity function. We only got 12 people from the department of DFFE. That on its own means that we don't even have the presence in any of our 72 ports of that particular function. How are we working for now? All our environmental biosecurity experts, they are located in Pretoria. And when they have to be deployed to a particular port, because there is a particular invasive species that is going to arrive there or consignment, we have to dispatch officials there. Hence, we work by appointment. And that is the reality. So if you are to look at the 72 ports, you have to think about the shifts and all of that. So we have a presentation that talks exactly about that. And that includes the business case that we have taken to National Treasury. Port health responsibility are only at 37 ports out of the 72. For the rest of the other ports, we don't have. So I can go on and on and on. So I'm trying to say that when it comes to the capacitation of BMA, there are a lot of issues, let alone just even head office for the back office people. Hence, we have done some advertisements to try and get capacity into the environment. The issue of the neighboring countries, let's indicate that we continue to engage with our neighboring countries. But the reality of it is they still do not figure it that it is their responsibility to help us deal with illegal migration in particular. Just from the 6th to the 9th of November, we spent the whole time with Mozambicans. One of the issues we're discussing was, how do we better facilitate and synchronize our processes in Libombo to be able to address what Advocate Bongo is referring to, or Honorable Bongo, about the trucks that starts in Malaland. And we spoke, we went to the port itself, we sat down, we look at the issues, and as we speak, we are busy implementing some of those issues. But on illegal migration, unfortunately, there is not much investment to assist us, but we continue to engage them because they are our neighbors anyway. And that is basically the issue. Honorable Pillay, the issue of OR Tambo, indeed, I think Honorable Lehwasa will remember the experiences of OR Tambo probably 5 or 6 weeks ago. And we had to intervene. I mean, we took around 33 new laptop computers that we got from Home Affairs, and then we went to put them there. We put in the biometric movement control system, which is the new system. And on that basis, we had to get some additional capacity there. At the same time, we also had to engage with a number of stakeholders, including the Tourism Council, including the airlines associations themselves, and be able to explain the transition from EMCS into the new system of BMCS and some of the issues that we have to be dealing with. Up to this point, we are fairly comfortable that we are getting the environment fully covered. Hence, we also got the approval to also have the colleagues working a bit overtime. That is one thing that we have done in OR Tambo. And up to this point, we are kind of getting a bit stable. Now for the festive season, we are going to be bringing in 20 additional staff complement into the environment to make sure that it is fully stabilized. How do we do risk analysis? You will remember, Honorable Pillay, we have the National Targeting Center. The National Targeting Center of the BMA, inside it, there is SSA, there is crime intelligence, there is defense intelligence. All of these intelligence structures, they have desks whose responsibility is border management. And they are actually the ones who are helping us to do risk assessment and be able to give us intelligence provisions on how we are supposed to be dealing with the issues on the ground. That is how we are doing the work. Hence, I have said, even as we're doing this planning, they did their risk assessment as the intelligence community sitting in the National Targeting Center to assist us on what we need to look at and all of that. And we have to then work countermeasures to make sure we deal with those issues. Honorable Pillay, the issues in Durban Port or the issues even in Richards Bay Port and all of that, most of those issues are Transnet based. These are the issues relating to bringing in of the containers into shore and be able to use those complicated machinery of theirs and do all of those logistics related issues. In terms of the immigration functions and the rest of the functions for BMA, there is no any issue there. There's no any backlog, there's no any delay, there's nothing. That is a Transnet related issue in terms of bringing everybody on board for us to be able to process them. And we don't have any challenges or any backlog. There is purely a Transnet issue, as it were. Honorable Ruos, the statistics we gave is not necessarily reflecting the current figures. These were just the issues on the festive period of the past December period. That is why we say 2017 December 6.3 million, 2018 6.2 million, 2019 6.3 million, and then 2020 we dipped into 1 million, and then 2021 we came up back into 4 million, and then we are saying from where we are sitting with the 2022 4 million, we are saying this year, because we are now completely out of COVID, we are suspecting that we might actually escalate back into pre-COVID numbers, which is averaging at 6 million. And that is what we are working on. So we are just saying that they are not reflecting the period in between. It's just only those December periods. We're just trying to do some comparative issues in as far as that is concerned. Now, the 308 that we are talking about, Honorable Ruos, we are not talking about all of them being inspectorate. No, it is around 300 and something, a bit below. It's just officials working in the Department of Home Affairs who are having immigration training and experience, and they also understand how to operate the systems. They are just that they are now working in Home Affairs offices inland, and those are the people that we are borrowing for the festive period. Now, it is only 60 that we are borrowing for the inspectorate, and that is only for the return when the people are coming back to help us in terms of the borderline and all of that. So we are not necessarily disempowering the inspectorate. We are only requesting 60, but not throughout, only for those few days in between. And that is basically the essence. So I think that is basically the essence. The load shedding aspect, we do have those generators well serviced, ready to make sure that in case load shedding hit, we should be able to address the situation. And by the way, we are fairly grounded on this because some of our ports are too much in the periphery. And on that basis, we are fully dependent even on this most of the time without even load shedding. Therefore, this is therefore our biggest focus as it stands. In terms of the infrastructure, Honorable Ruos, we do want to have some bathrooms along the corridors so that the colleagues can be able to go in, but also have water provision so that the people on the queue on the corridor should be able to be assisted. And that is what we are busy setting up now as we go into the period. Maybe just to conclude, and then the colleagues will come through, honorable members, just the issues raised by Honorable Bongo on the integration. The integration of staff, Honorable Bongo, had been officially concluded by the end of March. When we then transitioned into the new financial year, 1st of April, we were able to do the actual integration. You'll remember we took 1.2 staff complement from Home Affairs, 380 from Agriculture, 370 from Health, and we had the 12 from DFFE, and we also have the 221 border guards and the head office staff from the BMA to be integrated. All in all, by the 1st of April, we had integrated everybody, and we're sitting at a staff complement of over 2,100. So that process had been fairly concluded, and we're able to then have them fully integrated into the BMA. Hence, we had to do all of these processes of getting them to be uniformed and all of that, which then led into the launch of the BMA on the 5th of October by the president. So all of that admin had fairly been done, Honorable Bongo. And of course, the issue of the truck, I suppose I have touched it a bit. And the general, as well as Deputy Assistant Commissioner Van Mil, had actually been spending time at Libombo with the private sector, trying to deal with the issues relating to the trucks as it goes to Libombo, as it were. One of the things that is very much real, honorable members, about Libombo is the more we actually do the work and the more we try to facilitate is the more the volumes keep on increasing. I mean, as we speak now, we're handling 800 trucks per day. They moved to 1,200 per day. They then moved to 1,500 per day. Today, we are averaging 1,800 trucks per day. And with the challenges in Durban and the challenges in Richards Bay, we are suspecting that very soon we'll be passing 2,000 mark per day. And those are the real volumes that we have to be dealing with. But at the same time, we do know that the border itself is one line and when it goes to the border. And that is why it becomes very much difficult to perfect the environment completely. But we continue to do the work. At least I'm also the chair of the National Logistic Crisis Committee on border processing as well as corridor management of the presidency. We meet on a weekly basis together with the private sector to be able to have better ways on how to address the issues relating to Libombo. And we continue to do that, and we are hopeful that very soon we should be able to address the issues. We know what is the long-term solution. Long-term solution is get in the trains that are going to help us to move most of these minerals. In terms of general cargo and the rest, we should not struggle to handle that. So that is basically one of those. But obviously the longer term one also is to have the port completely redesigned, redeveloped, a lot of lanes, as we have done with issued the request for proposals. But that is long term. In the meantime, we have to do with what we have to address all of these situations. So thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I do know the colleagues are here. They should be able to come through to add on other aspects, Honorable Chair, if you agree. General?
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chairperson, for allowing us to add. I think, Chairperson, the Commissioner has touched on most of the issues on terms of our plans. However, I will touch a little bit on some of the issues. For example, from Honorable Ross, the issue on the extension of hours. We don't do the extension of hours on our side only, but in the phases of planning, we then meet with the counterparts and we agree on both sides that whatever extension that we take, it will be on both sides. And even when we close the border, the middle of the border, whenever the gate is locked, it's locked by both countries at the same time. So it doesn't happen that it's only one side that opens and the other one it's not open. In terms of the issues of tourism statistics, the commissioner have mentioned that. However, just to add, Honorable, was that we have had 2 meetings with the Department of Tourism in the Western Cape. We even met with the provincial minister with regards to the issue of tourism, but how are they going to help us at the harbour and also at the airport, whereby they even offered us some cadets that are coming from the tourism that we can utilize for queue management at the airport and also in the harbour. That has also been done with OR Tambo. So those are the things that we currently doing. In terms of capacity building, capacity of PMA is very low. It is true because some of the departments that were supposed to be integrated are still have not agreed on that. That is why we only dealt with the 4. The main ones, which was those that were doing access control, the police, are still not coming to the party in terms of transferring that function to us. So we are still struggling in that regard. With regards to the issue of OR Tambo, where we have Honorable Rosso, you mentioned that there were at the time 2 immigration officers in those terminals. It is true, but we are dealing with that. The 60 immigration officers that we have requested are going to be placed in those terminals in order to make sure that all the terminals are covered. And we are working with AXA in terms of demand time, that we will know that what are the times in which the wide body aircraft will be landing, and then we will be making sure that the officials are put in those terminals during that period. The issue of the system downtime, it's also a challenge that we've been facing, but we're working with SARS in terms of ensuring that because they've been managing it previously in order that it will always be not going down, but trying to ensure that it is always working. Obviously, we are working on the decommissioning of the EMCS and making sure that the BMCS comes is the one that is going to be used. The rationale for the BMCS is that we were in fact, the only country that has not been using biometrics when we deal with our travelers. So we are, in fact, at OR Tambo, we've made sure that the BMCS will be the main system that will be used. However, we're still retaining the MCS for whatever eventuality, but only maybe 2 or 3 of the terminals that will be in terms of the EMCS. In terms of load shedding, we have generators in all the ports, and they've got the UPS system in order that whenever the load shedding is activated, the system that doesn't go down because of the issue of the UPS that we have on our system. In terms of trucks piling on the N4, what we have done there, Honorable Ross, is that we have brought in Sunrail, who are responsible for the corridor, and they are a company that is track that is looking at the safety of the travelers on the N4. They are also coming up with infrastructure like your ablution facilities that they assist from time to time to the drivers that are waiting in those lines. And we have also brought in traffic, the traffic from Ehlanzeni, that is Nelspruit, whereby they are also conducting roadblocks towards the road, and we are communicating just to ensure that whenever there's a blockage, they are able to block or divert the trucks away from the N4 just to make sure that there's efficient movement. At the bypass at Libombo itself, we have co-located the immigration function and the custom function into one office. So the truck drivers do not get out of the truck, but we work as if it's a toll gate concept where documents and passport will be issued to the officials, and the truck driver do not have to get out of the truck. The issue in question, Honorable Rose, is that there are three different issues with regards to the issue of trucks. These are trucks that are carrying perishable goods and cargo, and those who are carrying the bulk, like your coal, whatever that is going to the Maputo harbor. The issue here is that the Mozambicans prefer that the perishable trucks should be given priority, because these are the trucks that are going to them. But they don't take the cheaper trucks or those that are carrying bulk products to be going to them, because they are using Mozambique as a transit into the Maputo harbor for export purposes. Those are the inner things that we were discussing with them, because they would like that we should give priority to the perishable and the cargo trucks. But when that happens, you find that the other truck drivers will then block the road and causes more trouble in that area. But we are working with them. In fact, the World Bank Group that we've been dealing with have been assisting Mozambique in terms of capacity, that whenever a process has been done in South Africa, it should also be reflecting on their side. In other words, there should be one stop, but we are still talking to them with regards to all those issues. But the plan for the festive season is that we are going to divert all trucks. There's a place called Kilometer 7, where we're going to divert trucks into the old airport and then manage them from there, and escort them from that area to the port of entry, making sure that the space between the Kilometer 7 and the port is always doesn't have trucks, because the companies and the citizens, the farmers, have been complaining that the trucks are blocking them. They can't go to Komati Port. They can't access their homes because of the trucks. So that is the plan that we have put in place, that the trucks will be diverted from the N4. But the longer plan that we're talking to Sanzel is that they should come up with a truck holding area. That truck holding area that will be having all the ablution facilities, security, and everything. And then ourselves as BMA, we then gonna bring in the immigration function into that space, and also customs. So whenever all the trucks have been dealt with, then they can be escorted from that point into the port. Because currently, what is happening, we find that there are trucks that comes in without what we call the proceed to port permit, and then they just stop along the road. They're causing serious trouble in that regard. With regards to Honorable Lizelle, on the issue of the what are we doing in terms of the corruption that is happening on the ground and all those measures, we have put various measures. Honorable Member, the deployment of the new staff from Home Affairs that they are giving us, it will help, because then you will be having new people that will be working with them. So we are of the opinion that whatever those that are have been doing their things, they won't be able to do that, because now we will be having new people that will be working with them. And we are also using brought in our counter-corruption from the Department of Home Affairs, that will also be deployed in the space to look at whatever corruption issues that it's happening. And we have also engaged the crime intelligence. There are undercover operations that they are currently busy with, that will be looking at dealing with the issues of corruption that may happen in that space. The issue of the deployment of additional staff at OR Tambo, Honorable Play, I think I officials that will be placed in that area, and they'll be working in accordance to the demand time. And we have also approved overtime should we face some other issues with regards to the issues of capacity. The deployment on the ground, Honorable Lizelle, again, on the vulnerable segments, we are working with the defense. We deploy the border guards with the defense in those identified vulnerable segments. They are working together in order to ensure that we deal with all those that are going through the port without going to the correct declared area. There's also a situation that we always experience during this time, that we have a lot of people who arrive at the port now during Christmas time who wants to deport themselves. In other words, announcing themselves that they don't have documents, but they wanted to go home. So with Inspectorate and our guys on the ground, we make sure that all of them, they go through the deportation process. We take fingerprints in order that when they come back, we'll be able to send those fingerprints to our mainframes that they cannot access our documents in the country. We do the same situation when they return, because many people will go and say, no, I'm a Mozambican or I'm a Basotho, but during the return time, then they come and produce the South African document or South African ID that I have lost a passport or whatever, but I'm a South African. So in terms of the Immigration Act, you cannot refuse a South African coming back. But those are the things that we are doing, that we do take fingerprints, and then there will be repercussions to them if they have lied that they are Mozambicans or they are Basothos. But they go through that deportation process. I think I can end there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Thank you for taking your time to come and give us this a briefing on the importance of preparations and planning towards safeguarding our ports of entry during the festive season. We will then, members, step off from this item, and I think, Commissioners, you can be released from the meeting.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Matonsi, can you please highlight the next item on the agenda?
The next one is the last one, wherein we need to adopt minutes of the 21st. Chair, this is the meeting wherein the IEC briefed the committee, briefing by the Department of Home Affairs and the IEC on the voter registration weekend, and then briefing by the IEC in the first and second quarter reports for the 2023-24 financial year, Chairperson. Those are the items that we've dealt with on the 21st.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matonsi. Members, any takers on the minutes?
Chairperson?
Yes.
Chair, I wish to move for the adoption of the minutes.
Mr. Pillay moves for the adoption. Any seconder?
Lekwasa seconds, Chair.
Honorable Lekwasa seconds. Thank you very much. Is that the only set of minutes, Mr. Matonsi?
Yes, that's the only set. And then, but Chairperson also requested that if I could indicate that on Monday, we have made an application for a meeting from 9 o'clock to sit to deal with the issue of the legacy report, but also to request the Parliament Legal Service in terms of assisting the committee on how we can quickly process the electoral bill. And then also he said I must also indicate that no, he's also consulting with the chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, and also that emanating from the briefing that we received from the minister, and where we recommend the extension of the nomination of names for the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, that we should do a small report that should be adopted on Monday and then sent to the National Assembly that this is the decision of the committee based on what the minister presented today. Those are the only things, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matonsi, and all those are noted. Please be cognizant that today is a Friday. Can you kindly furnish us with the Monday meetings details and agenda items on time before that Monday?
Okay, I'll do that today.
Is approved, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. Thank you for your contributions towards the meeting today. We wish you a well and a good weekend. The meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.
Prati, rent, which company?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everyone.